everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 216. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
Connor's here too.
Yeah, I'm bringing all the spicy opinions this week.
Oh no, that's a bad sign.
We all know gingers can't tolerate spice.
Very good with spice, thank you very much.
Okay.
I enjoys doing a lot of space in that. Another reference for you. As a DC Comics podcast about comics every week, coming up on this week's pretty packed show, we'll be talking about Batman 3 Jokers issue 1. We also have... Yes, finally, it's a fair point. And we also have Wonder Woman 761, The Flash 760, Suicide Squad issue 8, Action Comics 1024, and Connor had to read this one too, Justice League Dark issue 25, Batman Superman number 11, Legion of Superheroes issue 8, The Question, The Deaths of Vic Sage issue 4, and the final issue of Plunge, which is issue 6. So that is the pretty full slate. Because DC, for some reason, like overloading week 4s.
Yeah,
consistently.
Because you look at next week and there's not much.
Yeah,
so you could have spread some of these out.
I know. And I'd like to think it's just because, maybe it's just because all the books that we don't like just are spread out in the other weeks, and then this week just happens to be like a weird coincidence that all the ones that we like are. No, it's not. If you actually look at the shipping schedule, there's more shipping this week. Anyway. But yeah, so that is what we're going to talk about. We got a little bit of news though. We have some leftover Fandome stuff from last week, a couple of little tidbits here or there. So
not too much though, because they didn't really have a lot of comics news. I think they're saving it all for part 2, which I think is September. I want to say 12th.
Not a lot of comic book specific stuff, no. But I mean, there's stuff still very related. I mean, we talked about some stuff last week. As it was breaking and, in between things, and some stuff was there for the start of the show, trailers and stuff like that. So I think what I'll do is I'll start off, and because luckily IGN, I don't say a lot of nice things about IGN, but they do have an article summarizing everything that came out of Fandome relatively in order. So I'll just kind of, without talking about it, just recap kind of what was already talked about last week. Just here's a rundown of the things. So there's a new Wonder Woman trailer, 1984, revealed Cheetah, jury's out on how good she looks, to be honest. It was kind of quick and hard to get a good
we'll see.
We got the Gotham Knights game announced. There was a lot more interviews and stuff about that during the week.
Jason Todd looking like a big thick boy.
I've not made it yet, but I'm really tempted to make an image for Twitter where I'm like, I can't wait to play as all these great Bat characters: Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, not you.
Fake Bane.
So we had that, and then we had the full cast roll call for Suicide Squad, which looks very promising. So that's cool. So
John Cena as Peacemaker was a surprise, because if I had to guess, Peacemaker's not a good guy. So Cena fulfilling finally what all we've been wanting for
the heel turn,
almost 20 years. Yeah. It's always good.
The heel turn. So and then we got probably the one bit of comic book kind of related things that came directly from the thing was the Milestone, the Static Shock, which I also did say there's a movie coming. They also casually just mentioned, there's a movie in development without much details, really. It was just kind of a vague...
Yeah, they gave us a few bits on this Milestone thing, right?
On the comic side, but not in the movie. It was the Static Shock movie was just, there's a movie in development. And that was kind of it. The comic book stuff is that there's going to be a digital first series launching in February 2021, and then an original graphic novel later in the year. I'll be honest, they've been kind of mumbling about relaunching Milestone for a while, and I don't know if a digital first series and a graphic novel at some point, and there'll be other things maybe later.
Well, they mentioned Milestone co-founder Dennis Cowan is illustrating a team-up series titled Icon and Rocket, which will be written by Reggie Hudlin, who's also writing the Static Shock series, I believe.
I did not see that at all.
And Reggie Hudlin has familiarity with Milestone characters, I believe, too. So...
Yeah, and I think that they're actually releasing a 17-page sampler on the part 2 of the Fandome called Milestone Return Issue 0.
So I think this is the better track than they tried pre-New 52, when they just threw all of them in there. Like Static was suddenly a member of the Titans, and there was no explanation of kind of where they've been. And then there was rumblings, because I think there was a Static book in the New 52.
There was.
Early on. Yeah, and so they've been trying.
I think Dennis Cowan has spoken about this relatively recently, because obviously he's the artist on the Question Deaths of Xage. So he did a bunch of interviews and stuff for that. This Milestone revival has been in the works for 4 or 5 years. However, there was a bunch of legal issues which tied it up, and they've only just kind of resolved those in the past 6 months or so. So this is as soon as it could happen. Really,
I wonder what it had to do with. If
I'm not
character
entirely
rights sure. Or
I think the details are there if you want to look into it. I just
probably
didn't bother.
So, and then even though this felt like it was earlier than this because it leaked right before the whole thing started, then we had the Snyder Cut trailer with the reveal that it's going to be a 4-hour miniseries, at least to begin with. Maybe they'll do like a super movie cut after the fact.
I can't wait for this thing to be done. I'm so done. I am tired of it. Reevaluating
I just muted it on my Twitter.
But that's fine. But still, it has to be like the, not to change subjects, but Chadwick Boseman passed away yesterday, so I went through like the best Black Panther moments, and it still upsets me that we can get something as cool that happens at the end of Endgame that I will never get as a DC fan.
I mean, never say never.
And the fact that we're re-litigating the Snyder stuff when we should just be moving on to whatever this post-Flashpoint multiverse thing is. Now we have to go back, and it irritates me because I'm done with the conversation. It's just noise at this point. Ugh.
Yeah. So we talked about the teaser last week, though. That's what it is. Can't say I'm trying to say. Black Adam had some like concept art or whatever, but the main thing here is they revealed some GSA members that are going to be in there, and also The Rock kind of, without directly saying it, basically confirmed Superman was going to be in the movie as well.
Which is, I think, interesting given that, and I think along those he said it, or at least heavily alluded to, there would be Cavill playing Superman in that role. But which is interesting because all the JSA concept art is very traditional JSA in their prime. So you would assume set, in the past, not necessarily present day.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you want to work with Legacy and whatnot, you have Black Adam there, and he can work with Kahndaq, and they put him away. And that's the first part of the movie, right? I'm not saying that Superman's the thing, but the fact that we get a proper Henry Cavill appearance Black Adam might be a dark actiony movie, but something akin to Shazam, right? With that lightness that he hasn't really got to play around with is very exciting, because I like Henry as Superman and I want him in more things.
I'll be honest, I know people are excited about these GSA members being revealed. I'm kind of conflicted about it because I feel like it's kind of a weird, it's a small team. It's not exactly all the characters I'd want.
That would be all of the JSA. This is just what they announced so far.
Okay,
but
sure.
It's very interesting though that Cyclone's in there, and Cyclone's not a traditional member. I mean, that's Ma Hunkel traditionally, right? And Cyclone came from the John's second run, right? That was post.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, where she's the great granddaughter of Ma Hunkel, and she has, Red Tornado-esque powers, which is cool. But yeah, you can work that in with whatever. But we got a Hawkman, which we kind of expected. Which, again, if you want to talk about Legacy and Rebirth and
and also the Hawks have a lot of links to Adam's origin stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. If you want to do a movie that's about, because to me, Black Adam always works best as the, he's redeemed as he's a member, of the Justice Society, kind of with that sketchy past. So if you want to do a story about redemption, then you work the Hawks in there.
Even if it's not a story of redemption, I like Black Adam where he is still a villain, but he's very much, in many ways, he's kind of similar to Doctor Doom, right? And that he has his country, and he does genuinely care about his country. He just maybe goes about it in the wrong way, but his people quite like him.
And we saw in Doomsday Clock too. He seems to care about the state of the general world and doesn't want it to all go to shit. But in his eyes, you have to follow him. He's the only way, which that's what makes him towards the evil side.
He's one of my favorite villains because he's quite nuanced.
Yeah. So, but that made me very excited. Seeing Dwayne say, like, yeah, I can't wait to work with Henry, and everyone's like, wait, what? And knowing The Rock, he could have just thrown that out there without any, you know.
Yeah, I don't know I honestly don't know how to feel about this one yet. I've never known how to feel about this Black Adam movie. I don't know if I ever necessarily. I mean, it may be great, but I've never necessarily had like an idea of wanting a solo Black Adam movie. It's kind of a weird thing, but it gives me vibes of not that it's going to be anything like it, but in the same way, a Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, or even like the who was going to be in Gambit, Channing Tatum, like Rock Black Adam has felt kind of in that genre of obviously some of these have happened, some of them haven't, but this idea of this big actor's been attached to this thing, but it's not necessarily a character. Even though we all like Black Adam, we don't necessarily always rooted for a solo Black Adam. We always kind of wanted him to be the villain in the Captain Marvel / Shazam movie, right? It's always kind of been the thing.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, because again, I love the dynamic between Billy and him, in that when he is more of the champion that went bad, but we're giving him another chance, versus Savannah, like at the end of that first movie where he's kind of Black Adam adjacent. Like we kind of already have gotten that, so Yeah,
but it wasn't. Yeah, but it was kind of the worst part of the movie, though. So I'm kind of good with a proper version of Shazam versus Black Adam at some point.
I'm trying to see who's directing this again.
For me, it's like fine, because this doesn't rule out having the Black Adam versus Shazam movie still.
Oh, I'm not saying it does. That's not what I mean at all. I just mean that this movie feels like a weird. It feels like it exists because The Rock wants to do it, not because it's the natural idea or because there's another, reason for it.
That's probably true, that it's because he wanted to do it, much like the Gambit movie, which will never exist now, but it was only for as long as it was because of Tatum. However, I feel like there is potential. I think there's more potential in a Black Adam movie than there is a Joker movie, because I think Black Adam has a lot of nuance and sympathetic qualities that make him not just pure evil and chaos, whereas the Joker, I can see a movie for Black Adam for a lot of it until things go wrong. Whereas you can't do that with Joker.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. I just right now DC movies don't have the cred yet for me to assume this is going to be good. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm assuming it's going to be bad.
No, that's true.
But there's nothing. There's nothing for me to be.
But I don't know how you feel about the director. I just had to look up who it was again, and it's the Koyet Sarah, who did The Shallows and Orphan, and the Liam Neeson action movies.
I mean, it's not a great I mean, I enjoy The Shallows, don't get me wrong, but it's not exactly someone for the movie that Connor's describing, for the character that Connor is giving me here and describing, this is not the director I put with that nuanced take on a shades of grey character.
I mean,
sure,
depends who's
prove me
writing
wrong.
This is the director who you want Blake Lively to spear a giant, ridiculous CG shark on her own. This isn't Black Adam. But I mean, it may be great. I don't want to be too much of a downer, but some people get excited for this, and it feels like an old school kind of, we're trying to get people excited because we're making a comic book movie, but we're in a world now where comic movies are made all the time, and a lot of them are made very faithfully, and a lot of them are very, very good. So this alone, just seeing some concept art for some JSA characters doesn't move my needle that much. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, which I actually still haven't watched this, to be honest.
It looks dope.
It's a lot of fun, the trailer. It plays just straightforward. Honestly, there's a line at the end from Boomerang which made me laugh so much that it's like in my top 5 Boomerang moments. It
might be the best Boomerang moment that I've said. That's not like, I'm trying to think back to the comics, like the Johns run of Flash, where he was a lovable rapscallion of a character, right? But yeah, it's really solid. I went in with no skin in this. Like, I don't care about the Arkham games. I never played them. Apparently, this is set in that universe. So, but
what's funny
King Shark,
is
King Shark's having some moments, right? Like,
what's funny is I actually saw a lot of the panel talking about this, which was obviously after they showed the trailer, because it was on before the Batman panel, which I thought, I can catch that because it's starting in like 20 minutes or whatever it was. So I put it on, and this was playing still. So I actually heard a lot of the conversation about the what they said about the gameplay, what they said about the various features. I never went back because I heard so much about it. I never felt the need to go back and actually watch the trailer. So it's 4-player co-op if you want it to be. You can play single, and if you play single, you can swap between the characters as much as you want. It is a mix of Arkham style with gunplay. Although one of the things that I did not see in I've not seen the trailer, but from what I've heard is that apparently all the characters have a gun of some kind, which
yes, because you got Deadshot, obviously. King Shark had a minigun. Harley had revolvers or something or other, and well, I mean, Boomerang has a boomerang, which it's a ranged weapon.
Guns? Yeah, he's got boomerangs.
I feel like King Shark doesn't really need a gun either, but I mean, that's. You know.
I suspect this is an option, so every character has a ranged and melee option. And
that makes sense. Although with King Shark, I'd like it to be something like a lunge, like a rush attack, right? He's a big monster.
Maybe that's not representative gameplay, and come the actual release, he won't have a minigun. It was just kind of for the tone of the trailer.
Yeah, that's possible. This is one of these conflicted things, because between this and Gotham Knights, like, everyone's obsessed with doing co-op shit, and it's like, hey, single player,
I just want to be by myself talking shit about Black Adam.
And they both claim that you can play it in single player, and I'm like, okay, that's great, but so many games have claimed that, but they're actually boring as shit to play. And because they have to function with the idea of co-op in mind, the stories tend to not be as focused.
In that regard, I'm slightly more optimistic about Gotham Knights, just specifically on the co-op point, because Suicide Squad is the 4-player co-op where it sounds like the 4 squad will always be there, whether it's player controlled or AI.
I agree with what you're saying. What's funny about this is that it actually makes me more confident that Suicide Squad might have the better story, because in Gotham Knights they confirmed that you can play any mission as any character, which to me says that the story won't actually be as well written, because I'll have to fit whatever character you're playing as.
Possibly, because that is only 2-player co-op as well. So you can only have 2 at a time, and I don't know if there's always a second person with you. If
no, there's not.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
However, the story itself, maybe it'll be a kind of almost a slightly older style of gameplay or game storytelling, in that the player character is kind of a blank slate almost, and then just it'll be everything in the world tells the story, and and what you encounter. But maybe we'll have, obviously, if you're playing as Batgirl, you'll have Batgirl react to things as opposed to Dick reacting to things.
Yeah,
they might not be as essential in the story as a individual.
I think that's inherently less interesting than a weaker form of storytelling, honestly. But which is why I'm a little bit concerned about that. Whereas Suicide Squad, while the gameplay sounds like it's more focused on the co-op, the fact that all 4 members of the team are there all the time means that they can all write the story beats to fit the characters that are there, and have them, like, this bit's going to be very important for King Shark because he's going to react to this thing, and it's going to be a big deal for his character, and so on and so on.
I suspect, because in Gotham Knights you go to the Belfry. That's your hideout, right? Where everyone is. I suspect you'll have big story beats between missions with all 4 of them in there, having doing things. Maybe you'll hear if something's going on, and the character that should be reacting to something isn't there. Maybe they'll say something over the comms. I don't know for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, it's evil Superman. He's being obviously controlled by something, or
presumably Brainiac. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Given that the trailer starts with a big Brainiac ship crashed in Metropolis.
And for the record, yes, there is potential leaks / spoilers of who the villain in the Suicide Squad movie is. We mentioned this last week, but I showed the proof backing it up from because there's a couple of clips from the movie from behind the scenes that were playing during some of this stuff, and there is a small snippet of a screenshot that you can kind of see something that confirms what the rumor is. So won't spoil it.
It could have overlap with the game as well, though, too.
It could.
Yeah, because there was some speculation before those screenshots leaked that villain was actually the villain of the game. And given the premise of the game, it would still make perfect sense for that to be the villain there as well.
Yeah, it would. So all good. So then we obviously had the big the Batman panel with Matthew Reeves or Matt Reeves. Yes, I went all formal there for some reason. Call him Matthew.
Yeah.
But Matt Reeves was there talking to Aisha Taylor, and he was talking about. I mean, some of it was kind of fluffy and whatever. What was interesting is that he mentioned that they've only shot like 25% of the movie, and the trailer that we got was made out of that 25%, which is interesting. There's so much more, so many like parts of the movie that they've not even looked at yet. So
They could make adjustments based off of reactions now too.
They could.
They've only shot 25%.
To the point where there's a bit of narration in this from Riddler, basically saying like a really ominous riddle that I'm convinced that just to give the trailer some like extra flavor, they got him to record just for the sake of the trailer.
Yeah.
Because they probably didn't have enough to like, hey, we've got enough to build a story.
It's pretty easy to just do a couple of little voiceover bits for a trailer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, if he's not got a mic at home, post him a mic and make him record some. Yeah.
I forgot Paul Dano was in this until this started going around.
Hey, I forgot Colin Farrell was in this, and even after I watched the trailer, I still forgot Colin Farrell was in it until someone pointed out and said, "That's Colin Farrell."
Yeah,
I don't believe them.
There was a story from Jeffrey Wright the other day came out where he said he passed, on set going to shoot, he passed him, didn't realize it was him, and said, "Hey, have you seen Colin anywhere? We're supposed to be shooting in like 5 minutes."
Oh, Jeffrey Wright. Has there been a more? I mean, I loved Oldman as Gordon, but as soon as I saw Jeffrey Wright, I was like, this makes so much sense.
He might be the best Gordon ever.
Like, just the quiet confidence that Jeffrey Wright always has. I mean,
let's be honest. Like, I summed up all the fandom stuff, but really, what we're here for is talk about this Batman trailer because this is the big new thing. That's
in case you didn't know, he is Vengeance.
Yes, he is Vengeance. Yes. So this is our first look at Robert Pattinson. This is the first look at Matt Reeves' film. The look of it, the feel of it. Super industrial, super. Obviously, it is grey. It's dark and grey. So, it starts off like a serial killer movie, like Seven, where you've got.
It feels like a David Fincher movie.
Yeah, Riddler's taping some victim, and Batman's there at the crime scene. With Gordon looking at things. I think the big points here. Obviously, the Nirvana songs gives it a lot of flavor, but the big things here is when the thug asks him who he is, and we get essentially if it's not a single shot, it feels like a single shot of him just brutalizing this guy by grabbing his fist, basically breaking his arm and punching him several times in the head.
Yeah, and so what I saw is, the whole 2020 culture and how things are changed, and, there's a whole people out crying about Batman. However, someone pointed out, and I wish I could give them credit, that it was like, no, this makes way more sense that Batman would take out one of these guys as an example to the rest of them, right? And it was actually it's something that I can't recall seeing in a Batman movie. Now, I could be wrong. I could be forgetting stuff. But him just singling out one dude instead of fighting, the group of them, I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, even if half of them piss off in fear, that's a result.
Right?
Yeah,
and that to me fits in with the character of Batman, right? That he's this larger than life character, instead of them all surrounding him to attack and whatnot.
Well, two questions I have then, just on Batman himself is, how do you think of this suit, and what do you think of Pattinson so far?
He looks like he should be fronting as Bruce Wayne. He looks like he should be fronting a My Chemical Romance cover band.
Hey, Joe, I appreciate it though. And I saw people making this comparison. Sorry?
I thought you were going to say the eye black, but go ahead.
Well, I am, but more so that he still has it on after he takes the mask off, because people are pointing out, see, if you go back and watch Batman Returns, there's a moment towards the end where he takes the mask off and his makeup around his eyes magically disappears, but because he's about to take it off in the shot, he's actually missing it with the mask on, and it looks really stupid. So even though, yes, he looks really weird and emo at the end of the trailer, it actually, it feels like,
it makes sense. Like, and it feels lived in. That was always one thing for, as real as the Nolan movies felt at times, it was a hyper reality to where, if Bruce really was running around, Alfred would have had to do his eye makeup, right?
Well,
like, so the fact that here,
you could say the same thing about this. I mean,
but they're showing it here, right? They didn't talk about that in the Nolan for how real it was. Like, there's always the reality of that happening.
No, Matt, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying this is equally hyper real. It's just hyper real in a different way.
Well, sure. But I'm just saying the fact that they're pointing it out, I do like. Like it's a practical for as impractical as Batman can seem, right? Rich guy with a bunch of toys. The fact that he's wearing, almost football eye black to blend in with his mask is super cool. And
I feel like I like this suit more in the context of the movie than I'd ever did in the stills or that little teaser, clip they put out.
The high collar reminds me of Jean Paul of Azrael a little bit, but I'm sure they'll explain that away in the movie or through whatever.
I've seen Bruce
designed for its protection.
I've seen Bruce with a collar. Batman Noel has a collar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's a good example to me about. It's not even because obviously I remember like maybe back when the Amazing Spider-Man was getting made and there was like leaked set photos and the suit looked like crap, and I was like, well, no, once it's under the proper lighting, it actually looks pretty good. It's just because it's a candid shot that's taken in improper conditions.
Which always look terrible. Every single one.
Same with the Flash suit. I felt the Flash suit he looked for the TV show.
But this isn't.
He looks like.
This isn't just that though. This is an example of the world that the movie created. Because the first time we saw the suit for this, it wasn't a controlled environment. It wasn't a candid shot. It was a lit thing that was the way it was. I feel like this is an example of like when you see the grimy, David Fincher-esque looking world around him, and you see him walking in this kind of homemade looking, I mean, more high tech than the hockey pads, of course, but it looks kind of industrial and sort of like put together. Same with the car; it looks like it's just a car that's been souped up with an extra engine, and
it is, yeah.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. What did you think of the snippets of Catwoman that we get in this?
She looks great.
I mean, it doesn't look that Catwoman-y, but I mean, it's a tiny little trailer with nothing really to show. So,
well, I'm going to counterpoint that a little bit. See if you pay attention to the scene that she's in. We see her sort of cracking a safe, and then Batman shows up, and there's a bit of a fight.
I meant visually. Sorry.
Right. The way she reacts, because she tries to fight him a bit, right, and it's like a proper back and forth for a couple of seconds, and basically she tries to use her speed and whatever, and it doesn't work. Batman blocks her and knocks her back. There's a great moment at the end of that little scene that you see where she starts to sort of slink back like an actual cat, like an actual Catwoman-esque, where she sort of slinks back because she realizes that she can't take him on in a fight, and she's thinking, okay, how do I deal with this now, because I can't do a one-on-one fight with him.
Yeah, if we're ever gonna get my favorite costume for Catwoman on screen, it'll probably be this version, which is cool. Which is that during the Brubaker run, you get the goggles and like the jumpsuit kind of look, where she looks like a thief. Like it's multi-use. It's not the
we had that
Batman
kind
Returns.
of in the Arkham games, right?
Yeah, well, that was more or less the Arkham games.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
So I like that it's practical and functional. It's not just there because in comics sometimes stuff's just there because it looks cool. Do you know what
this whole trailer makes me feel? And I've been saying this for a long time with the movies, that eventually we're going to get so many movies and so many reboots and trilogies by one director, then another trilogy by another directors, that eventually we're going to look at the movies like we do with the comics, where a director comes in, they have their run, they have their trilogy or whatever, and this feels like it's going to be Matt Reeves' run. And I think, especially this one, it feels like it's a Black Label series. It feels like instead of trying to adapt the main continuity DC Batman, he's saying, no, this is my Black Label movie.
That's actually one of my biggest problems, and not that it's a different take, because I think that's what you're getting at with Black Label there.
Yeah,
it's not a direct adaptation sort of thing. It's kind of a different take on it. That's fine.
In the same way that
Batman.
In the same way, like Criminal Sanity kind of turned it into a serial killer thing for Joker and Harley, where there's different versions of those characters.
Yeah. That element of it isn't my complaint here. What I'm kind of getting at is there's a lot of rumors that it's going to be R-rated, and I'm like, I don't really need an R-rated Batman at all. I'm quite happy.
I think it'll boil down to what they do with the Riddler, because if you really want it to be Fincher-esque, it's got to be ghastly. There's got to be some true crimey type stuff. I don't necessarily think that we're gonna have Batman yelling profanity, or
maybe
a bat sex scene.
I don't think I need any Batman movie that's more than a PG-13. Honestly, I don't think it needs to.
I think they'll get it down. It's Warner Brothers. They're not gonna want to isolate. My.
Well, you say that, Matt, but in a post-Logan, Deadpool, Joker world,
as much as we don't like Joker in terms of
money,
bank it made.
Yeah. True, I mean, don't get me wrong. This has a much bigger budget than Joker, though. Let's make that clear.
Yeah.
Right. It also would not be as profitable, even at the same amount of net income.
No, and that's why I think so. If they want PG-13, because I have a hardcore Batman dead set friend. Like that's his entire, frame of things, and he's gonna want to take his kid to see this. And if it's rated R, that's gonna, kind of want to quench that. And I feel like you can do that with Daredevil in Logan. I don't know. I feel like some of the Batman, the more serious you take it, the less well it turns out. I don't know. So again, I think it really depends on how much they want to show with Riddler or Penguin and how brutal you want to make Gotham around it.
There is a part there you mentioned your friend wanted to take his kid to it. I think kids should be able to go see pretty much any Batman movie. It's Batman.
I agree, and that's why I think it's going to depend on how far they want to push that. But I don't. So that's why I don't see. Warner Brothers wanting to let them do the R. You know what I mean?
I don't think we need R-rated Batman by any means. I never need one. I'm not necessarily like upset at the idea of them trying it though. Like I don't necessarily mind, especially like if it's because Batman's slitting throats and whatnot, then yeah, I've got a problem. Yeah. But if it's because Riddler is a complete bastard of a serial killer, because you know, because Dark Knight was borderline, right? Dark Knight, like they went as far as they could, and I'm not gonna lie, like those things that they had to try. A couple of scenes you could tell they had to pull back a little bit. I would have kind of liked to see them, you know, maybe on the Blu-ray, you know, just the director's cut. It just doesn't like add tons of stuff. Just those couple of moments they had to pull back on with Joker. Just put it back in. I'd have loved to have seen that.
Features Joker killing a dude with a pencil on a table. Like,
I'm okay with a separate cut released later. That's the unedited cut, so to speak. Yeah. But I think anything you're releasing in theaters, assuming theaters are still alive in a year's time, I think it has to or should, for me, be no. You can take your kid to it. It's Batman. Any new Batman movie, your kid should be able to go to see it. That's how you get new fans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about, you know, Pete seeing Batman Begins, right? And that's what got him into comics.
Yeah.
How old were you, Pete?
I was 16. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really
okay, you're a bit later there, but
yeah.
The point is, I'm sure, especially if you go back to like, you know, the Burton stuff is a good period in terms of this as an example.
Although I remember Return scaring the shit out of me when I was a kid.
No,
like you know what I mean?
Kids movies can still scare kids, and when I say kids movies, I mean movies that kids can see can still scare kids, and that's okay. But I'm just saying, can still be accessible.
Penguin biting a dude in the nose and eating raw fish. Yeah, like as a kid, I watched through my eyes, you know. So,
although notably that movie was a 15 in the UK when it came out.
Was it?
It was, yeah. Although that was weird over here on that one in particular.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's been downgraded now, though.
It probably has, but at the time it was a 15. There was a couple of other weird examples of that where movies got higher ratings. Now, another big thing we have to talk about with this, just to sort the thoughts on the trailer itself, I like the trailer a lot. I think it looks like a good movie. It's a different take on Nolan's, and I love Nolan's trilogy. Like, you know, it's going to take a lot to like unseat that as my favorite cinematic version of the Batman kind of mythos, but there's definitely things about this that I like potentially more than Nolan's, like details wise, right? You know, there's details that I might like I might like the combat, for example, is the one that sticks out in that one little tease we get of the combat. I'm like, oh hey, that looks really good combat wise.
Yeah,
I can see myself liking Pattinson more than Bale.
Maybe. Yeah,
I mean, obviously there's very little to see yet, but I can see the potential.
That's another thing that I liked seeing come out of last weekend is the people being like, all right guys, we get it, he was in Twilight, he's done a hell of a lot more since then. So like, just because you don't like that,
yeah, he dodged Willem Dafoe's jizz in the lighthouse.
I think that might be the only thing I've seen him in since Twilight, but I know he's done other.
Well, see, I still need to see Good Time because I really enjoyed Uncut Gems.
I've heard good things about
that. I don't want to ever watch Uncut Gems again.
Netflix movie coming up, right?
Yeah. He's obviously also
in Tenet.
He's also in Tenet, yeah.
Yeah, which I haven't seen yet because
I think between Tenet and the Batman, he's kind of. I mean, obviously for the indie crowd, he's already started to shed that Twilight history. But I think for the mainstream,
he'll always be Cedric Diggory to me, though. So
piss off. I assume that was a Harry Potter reference. I'm not entirely 100%, but
it was. Yeah.
I just assumed it was.
And also, I just like
just throwing that out there.
Yeah, it's not that good, but you know, he was good in it.
But I like how it feels like its own thing, and I know some people are like, "Oh, we do have to do dark and gritty Batman." Here's the thing: dark and gritty works really well for Batman. As long as, and Matt Reeves is a filmmaker that I trust to have something to say, because Matt Reeves made Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which is one of the best movies of the last 10 years. So I trust him.
Dark, for as dark as that movie gets, there's still a sense of hope, and you need that sense of hope in Batman, because that's why he's doing this, right? The whole reason he dresses up as a bat is no one ends up like him.
The ending,
I think Reeves can handle that tone.
The ending shot of this with like just his face after the beatdown scene makes me feel like, I don't want to get too specific with my guess here because I don't know exactly what they're doing, but it does feel like the whole point of this movie, the character arc for him, is going to be questioning just how far he's willing to go. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the question of will he kill someone might come up in this movie, and like how Reeves is going to address that and like do a story with that. I can see that being a thing. But so the other thing I wanted to mention though that you mentioned before the trailer played is two key details. One is that this takes place during Batman Year 2, meaning that the origins happened. You can just sort of roughly assume what it was based on maybe some context in the movie, but also just generally what you think of as it won't fit after Batman Begins, but you can kind of take the loose beats of it and just kind of.
I know they did describe it as a Year 2 story.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah, but they did officially say that.
Yeah, I know that's what he said. He said it on the panel.
Sorry, I didn't hear you say they said that. Sorry.
Yeah, Mario said that. And then more interestingly though is that the one season TV show they're doing on HBO Max is going to be set during Year 1, and it will focus on a corrupt police officer who I think he mentioned some sort of redemptive story over the course of it, sort of against the backdrop. So I assume that if we watch that, we're going to hear like news reports about the Batman appearing, and there's like a mysterious figure beating up criminals and stuff. I don't know. And
I love that because that gives me a Gotham Central vibe. It might not be a direct Gotham Central. It's Batman was never the star of that book, and he was always on the outside. So when you did see him, it was a big deal. But yeah. So if that's the track they're going to take on that, it makes me want to check out the show more.
I think that's a case where being an original character will work out for the. I mean, I'm sure we'll probably get some cops we recognize around in the show. We'll probably have Montoya somewhere or whatever, but
a Bullock.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
You want those characters. You don't have to have Gordon.
I mean,
per se.
I can see Jeffrey Wright on a TV show, no problem.
You could guest star.
He can guest star. It's not his show, is what I'm meaning. No,
I mean, hell, you could do this story with Bullock, but I suspect they're probably going to do like an original character who's going to.
Yeah, I would love to see Bullock as that guy that is still towing the line, and that's who this guy's kind of almost like Bullock's the tragic figure, kind of like don't end up like this guy, and then that's what's so great about Bullock is when he does make the turn, and you want to root for him to be the good guy. I think that works. Also, we deserve a good Renee Montoya. Nothing against Bird, but that's not the Renee that I know that becomes the question.
Also, Gotham had a really weak version as well that was just kind of there.
Did she? Did they?
Yeah, she was like a minor character who I don't even know what happened to her because I stopped watching it before.
That sucks because Renee's such a great character that you almost would want a Renee Montoya show.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, or at least an arc on the show.
Yeah. Why can't we get a Renee Montoya show? That is the question. Anyway,
I've just got two more things to say on this. One, Pete, you talked about what the arc would be. They did openly talk about this being based on Batman Ego by Darwin Cook, which is very much Which I don't know if you've read that or not.
No.
But the point of that story is Batman is essentially the villain. There is very much Bruce and Batman, and it's about Batman's brutality and if he goes too far and if he's a symbol of hope or fear or both.
Yeah, so I imagine by the end of the story, I've not read this book, but ultimately he's going to come down the side of being the Batman that is going to go forward and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. That's kind of what that story is, and
that's cool.
It's an interesting choice for them to base it on.
I think that's very Darwin, who also had the rights to Parker. Right?
Yeah, I like that it's a lesser known story, right? It's not one you hear about as much, and I think it's nice to have a sort of character defining movie. So it's not about the origin, like we know why he's in a bat suit, we know why he has these things and why he's doing what he's doing, but this is kind of the character defining moment where he kind of solidifies what his moral compass is, and and it's kind of one of the things that I love about Dark Knight Rises is the idea of challenging the because Batman, like he believes in his own shit too much and has to ultimately kind of humble himself again, and I'm sort of getting senses of like, no, this this idea of the brutality and him finding himself. You know,
well, and maybe that's what he learns too, is like maybe crippling thugs isn't the best look. You know,
Yeah.
maybe you catch more flies with honey, and
maybe that's intentionally the point. Is that it's going too far.
Right,
you know,
and the further we get away from the Frank Miller version that uses Robin as a decoy to be shot at, the better we're off as a society. Just
here's a question: do you think? Oh, I mean, assuming this is successful, and it probably will be. Do you think this is the one that finally does a Robin or a Batgirl in a second and third movie?
I do. If even maybe you build up to Robin.
I think Warner aren't necessarily afraid of doing that anymore. I think they're more open to it. I'm not sure if Reeves wants to tell that story.
That's the problem. I feel like a lot of directors just don't want to do it, which is why we seem to just never get it. So I hope they do, because I really want the legacy.
I do feel like if they do it, it has to be an older, like him putting a kid constantly in danger. Not
it could be a teenager, It could be.
Yeah, so it's got to be
15,
someone older
16.
that's making that decision. That they have agency in it, and I don't know. I could see him doing it as I need a partner.
The reason why
I'm just going to throw this out there. The only Robin that fits the description for that story, that can come in later and be like, hey, we need help here, is Tim Drake. I know Pete's like, no, you can't skip over Dick.
No, you can't.
But I think by the time you do Dick's origin, if you do that, his parents die when he's 16, you can't have him turn to Bruce and and do that path. I don't think it functions as well. Whereas
enough of the Tim propaganda. The reason why I asked this question is because every time we're talking about Batman finding himself, one of the things that I love when they bring up about Robin as a concept is the idea that Bruce takes him in because he doesn't want him to become like him, and he doesn't want this kid to repeat the same dark path that he did. So even if Batman's in a better place, the idea that he recognizes this kid might go where he went,
and that fits in with the Darwin Cook story with Ego, from what you guys are saying, because in New Frontier, that's why Robin gets brought in, right? And it's also to soften Batman and to remind him of,
especially Tim's origin, is he sees that in Bruce, and it's like, hey, you go too far.
Connor, shut up! Right. But that's why I'm saying, based on what this movie potentially is doing, the idea, a follow-up to that would include the idea of the younger character would make sense.
And that's why I feel like Barbara makes a little bit more sense. And this is, you have Gordon, right? So, and I might just be because I'm watching Harley Quinn season 2, and that's something that occurs through that season, is you get Barbara showing up, and
do you know what? It's all talking about legacy. Like, even though I have a lot of concerns about various things about Gotham Knights, the game, I do love that we're at a point now where we can have a major piece of media that focuses on the legacy characters. All three of those good ones, and then the other one too, and we can give them the spotlight.
I'm here for Bane Jason. I'm sorry. Like, I can't.
It did occur to me though, if that game is successful and there's either DLC or a sequel, then you get to bring in Stephanie and Kate and Damien and some of these other ones. There's a whole other, there's a second tier of Bat family members we can bring in for game number 2.
Yeah.
So cool.
Oh man, you do a Batman the Outsiders too.
Oh, you could, yeah.
That type of thing.
Bring Katana.
You bring Katana.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's options. But yeah, so. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else to talk about. We talked about Catwoman, we talked about Riddler, and his serial killer ways. He doesn't really have much of a Riddler suit. I imagine he might get something by the end of the movie, but not not the Jim Carrey stuff, because obviously.
He carves a question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, or he carves a question mark into his face because he's insane. I'm okay with that too.
Actually,
although that might give it an R rating, so maybe not. I don't know.
Actually, Joe, I don't know if there's no indication in the movie that it's there. I wonder if the movie will lead to the creation of the bat signal. I wonder if that'll be solidifying the symbol and what it means to the city at the end as the idea of the signal. I don't know, maybe.
Has there ever been a story that talks about how Gotham feels about Batman? Like, do they look at him as a menace that's making things worse? Do they look at him as hope? Because we've got that with Superman numerous times. Like, what Superman means to Metropolis.
It's sprinkled.
I don't know about wider Gotham, but Gotham Central kind of covers a lot of those beats.
Is that?
Yeah, but I'm talking about Gotham itself. Like you're living off a crime alley, and you're just like, well, no, Batman's agitating Two-Face, and it's making it tough for my family to make it.
I think
work.
it's sprinkled in like all over the place. I don't know if there's a specific story that directly makes that the focus of the whole thing, though. Off the top of my head, I mean, maybe there is.
Yeah, if there is, let me know, because that's a story I'd definitely be interested in.
Yeah,
checking out.
Yes. So just to wrap up the fandom stuff here, Joe, I'll say about it is that a couple of years ago, I was like in a really bad place with DC movies, and I came out of this event. Yes, the Snyder Cut's happening, but Wonder Woman 84, they'll probably be solid at the first one, and both the Suicide Squad and the Batman both look great. Like, I'm actually excited actively about both of those. So.
And I think, just as another note on fandom as a whole, I think they handled it really well.
It was well put together. Yeah.
In terms of the digital experience, I think it's the best I've seen anyone.
Yeah, and they ironed the kinks out as it went, from what I hear. Yeah. And that it was a hit. They got the attention and movement that they were looking for.
Yeah, because it's the kind of thing we miss from like not having E3, right? As gamers, is that we like that barrage of news where we get all this stuff really quickly over a couple of days. And I think fandom did a really specific thing for us because we like DC. So getting DC movies and games, and obviously not really comics yet, but that's coming in the 12th. So we'll get there.
Yeah, they're just on part 2 on the 12th. They're treating it slightly differently. So whereas this was an 8-hour schedule of panels that were repeated 3 times or whatever it was, the part 2 is a bit different. All the panels are available to access at once. They've all been filmed.
Okay.
And you just pick and choose what you want to watch.
So what you're saying is that when it starts, there's going to be a barrage of news in the first half hour as everyone gets all the bits and pieces.
I hope news sites have their staff organized. Right, you're doing this panel, you're doing that, you do that, and then all just go.
I like that too, because that means someone's working the Superman beat, someone's working the Batman beat, and that why not, right? Like,
because we're still to come in part 2. We have all of the almost all of the comics news. We have animated shows, other TV shows, because I know the CW shows had their panels, and they had like the trailers for the next season stuff. But the DC Universe shows, for example, or soon to be HBO Max shows, I should say.
What DC Universe shows are you talking about?
Yeah, but we got those to come. Other HBO Max shows, I assume we'll hear something or other. Like the Green Lantern show, maybe we'll hear something.
Yeah, if we don't hear about the Green Lantern show at this, I'm going to be sort of like in the that's not happening. Like, or at the very least, it's at that point where if we don't hear about it now, it's like, well, it's probably just this figment of someone's imagination now. It's not going to happen for years.
Yeah, and I'm assuming we'll hear a wider stuff about DC Universe in that part.
I mean, the funny thing is I don't think anyone was concerned about the movies and TV and the games anyway. Like, when all the staff layoffs happened, it was the comics everyone was worried about. The movies, TV shows, and video games were always going to go ahead as planned because they are the big money making, enterprise.
And also, you can take off 10% of your staff on a movie and still make it, whereas, the comic is made by, less than 10 people usually.
So
including all your editors.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally speaking, the it's very positive, and as much as I hate to say that the Snyder Cut stuff served a purpose, like, it did satisfy a part of a DC fan base that doesn't obviously appeal to us, but it did mean that most DC fans came out of this thing relatively happy, unless you're just so jaded that you're mad that Batman and Suicide Squad were hogging a lot of the big news, because obviously the games were both Bat-related and Suicide Squad-related.
But at this point, what do you expect?
I know.
I think that's a bit of a weird coincidence as well, because obviously that Suicide Squad game has been in production for like 5 years.
That's not true.
Is it not?
No, well, there was a Suicide Squad game by WB Montreal that got cancelled, and Rocksteady was working on one point. I think WB Montreal also was working on a Damien game that also got cancelled. There was a Superman game that got cancelled. All the insiders say. The Suicide Squad game that they're working on now, they've been doing since no sooner than 2017, which is still 3 years, admittedly, but...
Yeah, okay. That's still before the announcement of this Suicide Squad movie. It's after the last one that no one gives a shit about, admittedly.
Joe, I think because they've both went through multiple projects that they've cancelled, I feel like they've kind of engineered it a little bit because I don't think it's a coincidence necessarily that they're aiming for 2021 with this Gotham Knights game where the movie's coming, the Batman movie's coming out, and then the Suicide Squad movie's coming out, 2022, and the game's supposed to be, or was the movie 2021?
I don't know about the movie. The game's definitely 22.
Yeah, so even if the movie's late 2021, it still sets them up nicely for the game in terms of interest. If people are into Suicide Squad stuff at that point.
And it's not the same cast, but they'll be familiar cast.
Yeah.
And
so there is some synergy there. Obviously,
honestly, I think the happiest people are King Shark fans and Harley Quinn fans specifically.
King Shark, I've gotten more King Shark in the last 2 weeks.
Have you done the King
I've
Shark episode near the end of season 2 yet?
No, I haven't got there yet. But
oh my god!
In season 1, where he talked about he has a problem with blood, and then you see what happens with his problem with blood, I lost it.
I am down.
A lot of that is.
I am so down for King Shark media. And Harley, let's be honest, Harley looks great in that new movie. She looks like Harley Quinn. None of this stupid yellow suit thing from the Birds of Prey movie. None of this stupid Daddy's Little Girl t-shirt or whatever, the crop top that she was wearing in the first Suicide Squad.
Daddy's Little Monster.
Yeah, right. No, it's Harley Quinn. It's kind of like a slightly evolved version of the Arkham City outfit, but it red and black, Harley Quinn. It's this easy. It's this easy, people.
Once again,
of Taylor's.
Yeah.
He showed.
Sure. Yeah.
Real quick though, I just want to thank Sajik for breaking my will on Harley Quinn, because that Harleen book really switched me around, and now I'm not as, and it's nice. I'm not as annoyed when Harley pops up. I can take her in small doses.
Hey, she's in a lot of good things right now. She's in a James Gunn Suicide Squad movie. She's in a good Tom Taylor
movie.
Tom Taylor Suicide Squad book.
Also, that was just a regular daily outfit in the Birds of Prey movie. That wasn't a costume, so it's fine that it wasn't the red and black.
I wasn't complaining that it wasn't a costume. I was complaining that it looked horrible. I don't care what the context was. It looked terrible.
It was meant to represent chaos.
Fashion, so.
Yeah. So,
I understand that enough to know that that's horrible.
Anyway, no, just a lot of King Shark, a lot of Harley, and that's not a bad thing. And it's Steve Agee as King Shark, which is going to be completely different than Ron Funch's King Shark, but also kind of similar.
Also, Nathan Fillion as TDK,
which by all accounts is actually Arm Fall Off Boy.
Yeah. Which is perfect.
But the initial standing for the Dark Knight is definitely intentional.
Yeah, I think I made that joke already.
Yeah.
But I think what is that? It actually stands for. I can't remember. It was to do with the limbs falling off. Was the joke that is what it stood for?
Gotcha. Also, Pete Davidson as his character. That I wasn't expecting him as that character. So yeah, and again, Cena as Peacemaker. I brought up earlier.
Yeah. So believe it or not, we actually have one bit of news which was not. I still think it was from Fandom. We got teasers for Endless Winter showing Batman and Wonder Woman in some winter outfits this week.
And they are really teasing it that it might have to do with Prometheus and the Endless Winter. You brought up last time we talked about this, the last time they showed up. So, hey, maybe if that's what's going on, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
We'll find out about this pretty soon, because obviously it's going to be in the December solicits at the latest, so we'll probably find out about it at the Fandom thing.
I think the comics all moving to the one that seems to be right around the solicits time for December is probably not an accident.
No, because I think solicits, it's assuming I'm working it out properly, should be on the 14th, 15th.
Yeah,
no, they come on the Friday now, don't they?
Yeah.
So it should be it'll either be they'll be coming out on the Friday the 11th or Friday the 18th.
Oh, but the one after. It has to be.
Suspecting they'll be holding them for the 18th.
Yeah. Unless all the announcements are for January.
It's just possible.
It's possible. Maybe December's quite quiet, and then January's got all the big stuff, so they're just announcing them all early, which they do sometimes for Kolins.
They do. It's not outside the realm possibility for this to be doing that.
Yeah. I didn't realize that I like the idea of Batman wearing like ski goggles, but I'm into it.
You know what though? It definitely feels like they're trying to sell us action figures.
It does a little bit.
The ice set, and I'm okay with that. Is some that grew up in the '90s where we had ice skate Batman from Batman and Robin. I'm okay with that. So.
And one of them has got an axe, which I'm sure Matt's always a fan of.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love people having big axes?
There you go. All right, well, let's have anything else, Connor, that you had that I missed.
I didn't really
No.
look, to be honest, because I thought,
That's
it's all fandom shit.
That's fair enough. There you go. Matt did mention something that I want to bring up on the show, and that was the passing of Chadwick Boseman. Obviously not DC related, but this was a sudden shock late last night. I
woke up to it this morning, and I woke up at like 7 a.m. and saw this, and it was just like, shit.
Yeah,
it came out of nowhere.
I was streaming last night, and I was just playing a game, and someone said in chat, "Oh, hey, that news about Chadwick Boseman's pretty crazy." And I said, "Oh, what is it?" And I kind of thought, what is he in some sort of scandal? What's going on? Was not expecting the reply to be he's dead. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah,
so
it's always weird for me when a celebrity dies because like you don't know them personally, but they are a pretty big part as fans, like we are, of our life or in our life, and so like this one hit me hard. And I can't really explain why. Besides, I just like.
Well, I think
it's the shock of it.
Yeah,
I think there's that, and
I think the reason why it's so shocking though is because he was diagnosed 4 years ago, and Black Panther came out 2 years ago. He was working heavily and starring in things up until very, very recently. So it doesn't feel like.
He's just finished another one with weeks ago, I think it was. With Viola Davis.
If he had been missing for the last 2 years, like from the public eye, it might not be as. You might make someone Matt. It might not be as surprising, but because like he's like Black Panther, this cultural event happened 2 years ago.
The idea that he was filming these movies between surgeries and chemotherapy sessions is it's almost incomprehensible that someone does that.
Right,
and I've seen on Twitter in the past day that he was repeatedly visiting children's hospitals, and it's kind of this sad but heroic irony that he was also battling cancer at the same time.
It was the sort of thing no one thought twice about it at the time, because a lot of celebrities, especially superhero celebrity actors, do this, and they go up and they dress up in costume, and all of them that do that, they're great for doing that.
The one that broke me and sent me into tears was there's an interview where he's talking about writing terminal kids that he knew might not get the letter back. And he was like, and just, I know what that feeling is, and you can't give in to the hopeless, right? And you're just thinking, oh, he's talking from experience, like as an older person and trying to make these kids feel better. But no, he really understood what it was, because what he was looking down the barrel of. And there's like the other thing, and a lot of stuff comes out when a celebrity dies, that, people pour their hearts out. Everyone across the board, it's all the same, like how much of a wonderful guy he was. And like Chris Evans has always said, there was always smiles to be found around him. And it's just, man, I don't like it.
It's something. And, credit, I guess, to Mark, because I assume, even though this obviously wasn't public knowledge, this was something that his circle knew about.
Any film he worked on will have known, just for insurance reasons.
Yeah,
they would have had.
So Marvel would have known, and the fact that Marvel didn't because they after Civil War they could have said, hey, let's get someone else now, because they stuck by him, and they had him front this massive movie, and it's kind of insane that his last appearance, as far as I can remember anyway, in the Marvel movies is going to be. I mean, he was at the funeral. Otherwise, to get spoilers. Even though everyone's seen it, but it's essentially the big return moment, right? He's one of the big faces when the portals are opening, and the golden lights on him, and it's like, hey, the cavalry's here. Like, that's going to be one. And I just, it's so weird because it felt like his career was just hitting its prime, where I was starting to expect him to pop up in lots of things.
He was so good and everything. I know you guys aren't baseball guys, and 42 isn't like the best movie, but him and Harrison Ford are so good in their roles as Jackie Robinson and Brent Fricky. Like, he was fantastic in everything I had seen him in. And so I started looking up his filmography, and I realized, like, I've seen a lot of that he was in. Like Pete was saying, he was just starting to take off.
That's it. He wasn't actually in that much yet. Like the first, if you look at his IMDb, like the first half are like, TV episodes, random TV episodes here or there. It's only the past, 5-7 years or so that he's really been the leading man.
Yeah, and also, like, he was in a lot of sports movies because he was this big, striking figure, right? Like, he was a big guy. And Draft Day is not a good movie, and I'm a football fan. That movie is boring as shit. he's easily the best part as this player that's trying to make his stock go up, and talking to Kevin Costner, and just every time he's on screen, it's the best part of the movie. And like it just,
I don't
so
think
much to
I've
give.
ever said a bad word about his acting.
Mhm.
Like I mean, I'm on record as not loving Black Panther as much as other. I mean, that's not exclusive to Black Panther. Let's be fair. That's most Marvel movies from the
It
past
has to
half
deal with that
decade.
it's got the Marvel tag at the front there, Connor.
Yeah, exactly. But I never once thought he was less than stellar in the role. To be fair, most of the cast in these movies are very good in their roles. I have very little to complain about in most of in that regard.
Well, and then it makes me wonder too, because I remember they were gonna fast track Black Panther 2, and then Coogler said that he wanted to take some time, work on some other things. So I'm wondering if Coogler, who must have known, right? He was a pretty big creative in those, that he didn't want to rush Chadwick through this, knowing what he was going through.
I wonder if the reason that they wanted to rush it in the first place was we want to do it while we can.
Right. And then that could be it. But
maybe.
On a human level, looking and going like, no, my guy is going through a lot. Let's give him some breathing room.
When they announced the slate, it was much later than everyone expected. It was years later than people expected. And maybe that's because they knew, and they were like saying, hopefully, obviously, we hope he pulls through this and it goes the other way. But it is like, I mean, who knows what they're going to do? But it's not really the time for that conversation. The guy's just passed away.
But
not important.
Yeah.
No, it's not. But Marvel handles legacy very well as of right now. So I trust them to do the right thing, and we don't need to talk about it. So it's just.
Is it just him pulling that off while he was going through that is staggering? Because I'm sure we've all known people who've died to cancer. My grandfather died from bowel and colon cancer. So very specific here. I know what that was. Like watching him go through that at the end. I know what that was like. And the idea of that some days he could barely get out of bed.
Yeah.
And the idea that this guy maybe 20 odd years younger. Don't get me wrong, but the idea that he could go out there and act to this degree, and and all the award shows that he attended. It wasn't just like he was in and out for a couple of months. He was all year he was
always
making appearances. Yeah,
and always a smile. Always. There was a Jimmy Fallon bit where he was having people that were really excited about Black Panther, leave a message, like a video message for him, like how excited, and then he would pop out from behind like a mirror, and then people would go out and like just the look on his face, you know what I mean? Just the smiles, and to know he brought up he was going through all of this, as he's also like being like, no, don't worry about me. Like, let's look at these other people lose their mind.
There was someone posted an interview that that they did with him in like 2017 or 2018, whatever it was. I think it was 2017. I think it was between Civil War and Black Panther. And basically, they said, hey, you've just done a movie where you were Black Panther, and then you did some other movie. I don't remember which one. And then you were back as Black Panther. Did you have to bulk up, slim down, and bulk up again? And he was just like, yeah, sure. And he goes, oh, you must have been through the ringer. Then he goes, oh, you got no idea.
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah.
Imagine getting into superhero shape, in those conditions. Like, I can't do it when I'm, at full health.
Full health in quotes. we can all throw that in quotes.
Yes. Well, yes. Relatively speaking.
But I know like Chris Evans has said, like, part of him misses being Captain America. He does not miss getting into shape to be Captain America, because it's a lot of work.
I can respect that.
Right? So because he always throws shade at
again, none of us can do it. That's why.
No, but he always throws shade at Hemsworth.
Even tries.
Yeah, right. Because Hemsworth is just naturally built like that, because he's he won the genetic lottery, and it doesn't take that much for him to get into it. So they always poke at him, and then just the idea of how much work Chadwick Boseman was putting in, and it's always a physical role. So now I have to track down the Netflix film The Five Bloods, which I know Connor watched.
Really good.
It's been on my to-do list for a bit.
And here's the thing: he has a very small role in that. I mean, I only it spoils. The premise of the movie is he plays a character that's actually dead. Who died in the Vietnam War, years ago.
But it is a physical role, though, right? He is there.
Yeah, he shows up in flashbacks and stuff like that.
what I mean by physical, he's playing a soldier. He's trudging
he's
jungle.
doing a bit.
It's never the stage play adaptation movie that he's in, right? Like he's always, a presence. But anyway.
Yeah. No, I just it was shocking enough that it felt like we should bring it up.
It
really,
sucks.
the only two words it boils down to are just fuck cancer.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Also, DC put out a real nice thing on Twitter too.
I didn't see that.
That one broke me too.
As they should, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but to see them put a thing out about you weren't our king, but you were still a king, man.
I think yesterday, the day that was, I believe, Jackie Robinson Day, because they moved it this year because of everything.
Baseball, yeah.
And also, it was Jack Kirby's birthday, who was, of course, the creator of Black Panther.
Yeah. And it was also the anniversary of a March on Washington that he, I think in the movie Thurgood, he had also had a part in the movie.
Big day then.
Yeah,
in history. Yeah.
And then now he's with the ancestors now, like in Black Panther. So, 2020 sucks.
Yeah, just when you think 2020, I think the joke I made is that 2020 can't go a week without something.
Just when you think it's settling into just normalcy and be like, okay, things can only get better from here, something else happens.
Yeah, I did warn Ash. I go, when Harrison Ford finally does go, I'm gonna be a wreck. Just warning you. So
I get it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, with all that said, we can get on to comic books for the week. Batman 3 Jokers issue 1. Geoff Johns writing with Jason Fabok on the art. Bryan Anderson colorist as well. Which I'm noting just because Bryan Anderson's very good and he helps make this. Despite the fact that it's not Gary Frank, I was getting so many Doomsday Clock vibes from the art in this.
It's very Doomsday Clock down to the
9
what the
panels.
hell's the continuity.
Oh, yeah, that too.
You know what I mean? And then just the way that Fabok's very clean in the same way that Frank is. So like the inking and the coloring gave it that vibe, which but Fabok's also just that good.
Oh, he's great. I mean, the 9-panel grid, the coloring, the ink, all that stuff made it feel very Doomsday Clock-esque, which is not a complaint because Doomsday Clock's like one of the best comics of the last decade. So here we are. Kara's been oddly silent, which means Kara's about to come in and kill everyone's buzz with.
Yeah, I posted on Twitter. I read this on Tuesday because I knew there were spoilers around, and I was like, I won't get until Saturday without seeing. I
did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I posted on Tuesday. I didn't know how I felt about it, and I needed time to process the thoughts, and I don't think I like it. I don't think it's a very good comic. I think the art is fantastic. I think Fabok kills it, and Anderson's colors are phenomenal.
There's a lot of ideas being thrown around. I think it's a really good first issue. However, if we don't start getting, if the story kind of just stays in the same kind of vibe that it's in, it could be problematic.
I think for me, there are story elements I just don't really like. But that's a complaint I can get past because that's my hang-ups. That's not their storytelling. However, I do think there are entire sequences in this that shouldn't be here. I think this has an ending about halfway to 2/3 through that should have been the end of the first issue.
I mean, I'll give you the Waynes being killed as something we could have cut out.
That was like 4 pages of trash. My whole thing is rendered trash, but trash.
Yes. And then maybe Fabok wanted to draw that, right? He wants that for his portfolio.
And I didn't need the 4 pages of this is how he got all these scars.
Let's work through. This is one of these big books that we're going to work through. Don't worry, I can bundle sections of it together pretty quickly though, because the opening, I do like the atmospheric stuff where there's no dialogue for a while. We just get shots of the cave, all that stuff. And as Batman, Alfred's like patching up his scars, and we get kind of like multiple variations of different scars that he's got from various villains, ending with 3 different Joker attacks, which obviously 3 Jokers, right? Yeah, the whole point. I did groan when it went to the flashback when he's thinking about his parents and the night they were shot. It's one of these things where, and it's not even that long. Like, see, when you get to it, it's like 1.5 pages. That's all it is. It's not a lot, but I could have done without it.
Do you know what the problem is? It's spaced over 3 separate pages.
Yeah.
Even though it's just the bottom row on the first
Yeah.
page and the top row of panels on the top row and one panel on the third page. But that second page in the middle, because it's over 3 pages, it feels like so much. And coming after that sequence of all the scars as well, it felt like, okay, this is what, like 6-7 pages here of just stuff.
Yeah, it's about 16, 15 panels.
Yeah, I don't have a whole
total.
I don't have a big problem with the scar stuff, though. To be honest, I thought that was fine.
No, me neither. It's very cinematic.
Yeah,
I could tell what
I didn't need 3 full pages of it. It went on too long.
I got to the point where I saw the Waynes again, and I wanted to throw my iPad across the room. I'm tired of it.
You want this moment where, like, you know, he's looking intently, and you want to show that he's thinking about the Waynes. I am okay with a single panel of the image, and then move on to your next point.
Or just the pearls, or the theater.
Whatever.
Something like stylistic.
Just something to show that that's what he's thinking about. We don't have to actually see the beats play out, because you know what, we've seen them 100 million times. We're good. And then it sets up the idea of these 3 crimes that happen. We go to Babs. She's exercising on a treadmill. And we hear about this comedian who's been killed. And it kind of gives us like names to like sort of refer to the Jokers as, and not even the narration. It's just like a chapter heading.
The criminal, the comedian, and the clown.
The clown.
Yeah. So the criminal is the one that we already heard about, which is this crime family's been taken down, and then we have this comedian that's been killed, which is the one that Babs has seen on the news, and again, some of the art with her I thought was good. It's one of those things when it starts flashing back to Killing Joke. Kind of like the Waynes, it's something we see a lot. I mean, at least
I wish it wasn't her only defining thing.
Oh, I agree with that.
We've gotten past so far with Barbara, and like if you wanted it to be like, if instead of focusing on the Killing Joke, we focused on her rehab, you know.
Also,
I think
is it possible to just break a treadmill like this?
Oh, I
mean, the point is, it's very, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but they're like, she broke another one. I'm like,
I think
how fast is she going on this treadmill?
I think the problem with the complaint that you don't want her to be fined by Killing Joke, I agree with that. The problem is, though, is that I don't think you can get away from it. Let's say that this was a problem in comics in general, or with Batgirl books in general. I don't think you can get away with it, or get away from it, I should say, in this book. Because it's about the 3 Jokers, because one of them's supposed to be tied to the one that shot her. I don't think you can get away from it.
No, I get it too, but I don't know. Putting 4 panels on it, I know it seems like a nitpick, but I don't know. I'm kind of past the point. Like, after the Heroes in Crisis stuff with it, and this is not that same level where it felt creepy.
That's fair. I guess what I would say is, I would just take out the flashback panel. See if it was just focused on the bullet wound. I think that would say enough without...
That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's who she was, right? Like, why do we fall from Batman Begins? We can pick ourselves back up, right? For the fact that she's picked herself up.
That's the problem. We've seen her get over this. Or work through it. Not get over it entirely is quite fair, but we've seen her get past this moment and not let it be her defining moment. God knows how many times now. We've seen it in various runs. We've seen it. I mean, most recently, I know Gail Simone's New 52 Batgirl stuff had a lot of that. And that was obviously quite a few years ago now, where it feels like, no, we've healthily moved past this stage. We don't have to keep being on this stage.
Right. But like Pete's saying, I get why it's here, because it is a Joker book.
Yeah, and
it's her defining moment with Joker.
It's the same in the next scene with Jason as well, where he flashes back to the crowbar. Like, it makes sense.
But secretly, you loved watching him get beat with the crowbar beat. Just admit it.
Do you know what concerns me about this, though? Is that obviously Batman flashes back to his parents being killed, and then Babs and Jason flash back to these 2 moments. It's almost like it's setting up that the killer of his parents might be a Joker. And I don't like that. If
that's the case, I am going to be very upset.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Yeah,
it's one of the big things in the Burton movies I do not like. Is that one? Is that Joe Chill is the Joker? One of. Yeah.
One of it already implies there are more problems, Pete. You didn't need to pull that up. if he'd said it was the only problem,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
you could have
Batman also just dropping dudes off of roofs. Not a good look.
Yes, but the way he said it implied that it was a few problems. It's one of the few, not one of
I mean, it is. It's a handful
many.
of problems, really.
Anyway,
Numerous.
yeah. Again, Jason is gonna Jason, I guess.
Yeah. So honestly, most of my problems come from all this flashback stuff in the first third of the book. I think once it gets on to okay, we've got this crime scene at Ace Chemicals, which is where the third Joker's is struck, and Jokerize these three people who they can't identify, much like the Joker himself. Once we get to this and we get Batgirl showing up to help, and then of course Jason ends up being in the ambulance with the one who's alive still. I think from here it kind of picks up for me.
Yeah, the scene with the ambulance really reminded me of Halloween.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, Halloween 4.
Right?
The Return of Michael Myers, yes.
Yeah, so, and I was like, wait a minute, is one of them, legit a lot? And then I was like, oh no, it's Red Hood's just as a paramedic. Okay, cool.
Yeah. I'm digging the Batgirl suit, by the way, on this. The classic
gray with the yellow.
Gray and yellow.
I wasn't a fan of her first panel in it.
Sure.
I don't like the way she's crouched on the bar. It
is a weird proportional thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's proportion. It's just the way she's balanced. It doesn't feel like a natural way to stand there for what
she
seems
should
to be
be
quite some time.
She looks like she's doing squats at the gym, and doing squats on a pole like that would be impossible.
It looks like she's taking a dump. Let's be honest. Just call it as.
Well, that's
And it's the sort of thing where if this was a pose where if it was just that bottom of that page where she jumps off down, and floats over the acid vat. If it was just that, I'd go, oh, she's just got up there, and it's lingering there for a moment. But it's the way it's there. She's watching from that position.
Yeah, basically, you're expecting one leg to be stretched out for balance, or a hand on the pole as well for balance, or something. Something else.
Yeah, it looks like she's got an invisible chair that she's sitting on.
However, if this was Dick Grayson doing this, I'd be like, oh, he's an acrobat. Of course he can do that.
If you think this is, just wait till we start talking about action comics, because I've got some takes. I've got some hot takes.
Yeah, well, it's because you have eyes. And you recognize things.
I've got some. You thought a scene in this reminded you of Halloween? I've got a really weird movie reference for some of the art in Action Comics.
I don't know if I want to hear this.
Okay. So no, I like all this. Do you know what little touch I like? I like Batman asking Babs if Gordon knows who she is, because of a look that he gave her at one point. I like kind of that line of questioning. But yeah, so
it wasn't so much the look. There was an actual line of dialogue that Gordon said that was like, oh, he definitely knows. So it felt weird that they didn't mention that and just went with the look.
Yeah. So. Yeah, Jason wakes up. Fun little action sequence of Batman going into the ambulance. Babs is trying to disable the ambulance so it's not running into people. Art's very good. We also have one of the Jokers in a semi who kills a raccoon.
No, he doesn't. The raccoon gets across the road because he swerves. Joker swerves for small animals.
Doesn't he walk into it in the next scene saying he's got dinner? He's holding roadkill up? Isn't that the very next scene?
Hold on, no, is that the? No.
I'm looking at the next scene. I've just gone ahead. Have I forgotten something?
I could have sworn there's a thing where he holds up some. Hold on a second.
No, because you see the S curve that looks like the swerve of the. He swerved out of the way.
No, I do agree he swerves, and he's trailing this, the green stuff behind him, which they talked about how they stole some chemicals from Ace Chemicals.
Mace.
Yeah. Hold on, I could have sworn there was a scene where he holds up a carcass and says, "I've got dinner" or something like that.
No, so you imagine that?
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying.
Maybe I did.
Hat,
yeah, the one that.
Cane.
Maybe I did. Where? Look, I'll admit, I was very sleep deprived when I read this earlier, okay? I clearly inserted an extra panel in somewhere.
You just decided
that made me hate Joker even more, because you leave that raccoon alone.
I did enjoy this scene, though, and if you talk about the ambulance reminding me of Halloween 4, this also reminded me of something. It reminded me of the start of Resident Evil 2. There's a truck stuff at the start of that. Very reminiscent. There's a lot of things that reminded me of things in this book, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. So we got Trucker Joker who walks into Killing Joke Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way I was reading this is that these two are the ones who, attack Babs and Jason, and then the sort of the leader one they go to speak to, who's sort of behind the desk, is kind of like the more classic Joker. Is that?
He's
Yeah.
the original.
Yeah.
He looks like that. With the hairline, the Denny O'Neil, and help me out on art. I'm drawing a blank. Who did he always?
Neil Adams?
The old grumpy guy. He did Man versus Muhammad Ali. God damn it, I'm losing nerd cred. Yeah, Neil Adams. There you go.
You're making me second guess it because I was like, is it not him?
No, I missed what you had said, and then it landed. Anyways, it looks like the Joker from Five Way Revenge. Right?
Sure,
sure.
Yes.
Like that one. That was a long way to go for that. But
yeah.
Him sitting there that sinister. So this is the criminal Joker, right? That's who they.
Yes.
And then the comedian, and then the clown is the one that beat up.
The clown is the one who drove here in the truck.
Right. Okay.
And the comedian is Killing
Just
Joke.
keep them straight. Right. They all are very different in that way. Whereas the comedian one has the wide brim hat, right? Very Killing Joke-esque. Almost like they're figments of the imagination because they're almost spot on, right? Like.
Yeah.
Well,
this page here where they all come in and you've got the criminal say, we need to make a better Joker.
Yeah.
That's the end of the issue for me. That's the point where that should be the end of an issue.
Well, if it was a 6-issue book instead of 3 supersized issues, then fair enough. But
I just think in terms of pacing, even so, that should be the final beat.
No, I get what you're saying. If anything, I thought it might have been ending there, and then I turned the page and went, "Oh no, it's not ended." That's quite a lot after it. So essentially, what they've done here is they've taken a 6-issue mini and turned it into 3 supersized issues.
And I think in some ways they haven't restructured it for the format, which is a bit of a pacing problem because it feels like two halves and not in a good way.
I guess that's fair. I'm not super mad about that though. I thought this was a pretty enjoyable read. Like I said, I had a problem with the flashback stuff early on, but once it got going after that, I was kind of into the. And I'm not really sure where they're going with the ending of this because part of me's like, are they going to like somehow twist this into there's really only one Joker? Although that doesn't really add up with the whole Mobius chair saying which one, but No,
but I do feel, and I'm gonna catch shit for this though. I like the idea that Joker is something that happens to you in Gotham, right? That Gotham turns out Jokers.
Okay.
And that it's much easier to become a Joker than a member of the Bat family, right? And so the fact that Gotham breeds them, like Joker could have only happened in Gotham.
Yeah, I mean, what if the story ends with all? Because I mean, just not to mention, we'll talk about it properly in a second, but one of them does seemingly die in this issue. What if we get to the end of the story and all 3 of them die, and at the last the page is a tease of the newest Joker kind of emerging from Gotham?
And to me that fits in with the Joker and why he's so different. And and I was talking to some people on Twitter after I read this, and they were talking about Grant Morrison's take on the Joker, and that is he changes his personality every couple years, and that's what explains the changes over the course of years for a character like that. And that's fine in the meta context, but for the sake of a story like this that might be a step outside of normal DC continuity, I like the idea that Joker's almost a title. And it does kind of play in with what Snyder was kind of doing with the Joker's always been in Gotham, and he's like this long secret evil, although that ended up, spoiler for Scott Snyder.
I hate that because I don't like the idea that there was a Joker before Batman. I like the idea that Joker only becomes Joker because Batman exists.
Right, but that's also John's playing with that idea, right? Like, Joker comes from Gotham, and Gotham they go on the same, just like Batman.
I don't hate this idea. It's kind of give and take though, because it does lose other things I like about the Joker. Like the idea of Joker's obsession with Batman, I think is diluted if multiple people who have taken the moniker have this same obsession. It kind of waters that down for me. So
it definitely does. But at the same time, that could be this criminal Joker that has the obsession. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't want to judge the rest of it based off of the first issue, but if the other two issues are kind of like this, where it leaves a lot up. I mean, I have a little bit more trust in John's, though, to tell a solid story. I mean,
Yeah, we have no idea how ambiguous this is going to be by the time we finish issue 3. We have no idea.
Yeah. I mean, this could be metaverse, multiverse shenanigans at play for all we know. Like the refolding of the realities because of Crisis or whatever led to 3 Jokers inhabiting Gotham at the same time.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning that these events with these 2 extra Jokers both happened after Crisis.
Yeah, they're post-Crisis.
Yeah. So, yeah, maybe they'll do something with that.
Who knows? With John's, anything's at play, right? Because all the stuff that he's done for DC over his tenure, it could be any of these things. But you guys brought up how Fabok's art's a little bit Gary Frank, and now I'm just realizing this kind of feels like a Batman Earth 1.
I thought that as I was reading it.
The outfit feels very Earth 1.
Especially having the oval, I don't think helps with that.
Yeah, and that it's reminiscent of Frank. It's set in this Gotham that's a little bit different than what we're used to, right? Was this a Black Label designate?
It is, yes.
Okay, well then that makes sense.
I think originally this was going to be part of John's own label, whatever that was going to be called.
Yeah.
We did have a name for it at some point, but I think that's just going to been abandoned.
I may be a horrible person for thinking this, but I kind of love Joker Shark.
Yeah. Also, as a biology nerd, you can't keep great white sharks in captivity. So, bullshit, Johns. I don't care how great Gotham is.
He's right.
You can't. They swim too much. Right?
They just die because they can't handle it.
No, they tried at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is like the best aquarium in the world. They could not keep the great white alive.
I think the best they managed was like 2 years or something.
Not even that. It was a couple months.
Was it that? Yeah. I knew it wasn't long because it was just like, I mean, in terms of a great white's lifespan, 2 years is still pretty short.
Yeah.
But they can't handle the captivity and they just give up.
However,
essentially,
I understand the irony of that being my nitpick in a comic where it's also Jokerized.
Yeah,
I get it.
I don't really care. I just like the image of it. I couldn't give a shit.
Yagi's a character from continuity, right?
Yeah, I mean they talk about how it's been a long time since they've used them, because presumably it's the original Joker who used them a long time ago. I can't say I'm familiar with this character because I mean.
No, but sometimes Johns pulls these tricks where he's like, "Oh yeah, that's a character from way back when," and turns out it's really not. Yeah, there he is, Gagsworth A. Gagsworthy. That's a terrible name.
That's a name from the 40s if ever there was one.
Yeah, I'm gonna look him up real quick. I should have done this before, but I forgot about him until now. Very reminiscent of Toad from the X-Men comics, right?
I can see that.
So
sniveling little sidekick.
Yep.
Yeah, of course, the gang shows up and there's a lot of shooting, which ends up with a wonderful page of the shark coming out of the tank and eating the little dude. So I love that page. I thought that was a really fun page. I think Joe, what I liked about some of this fish stuff is that it felt like Batman the Animated Series sort of Joker episode kind of style of stuff, and I was really into the tone and the vibe of it. And maybe this is something we can play with, is that this goes with this Joker, this stuff, and then the next Joker will have something that feels a bit more unique to that Joker.
So for every nitpick I had for the Joker Shark, the Joker Piranhas is the opposite. I was like, yes, I did see this. If any fish deserves to be Jokerized, it's a piranha. So
actually, a bit of art here that I really liked in terms of the sequencing. There's a moment when Joker shows up and he's got the fishbowl and he's trying to do whatever. The page it's like a 9-panel grid, but the bottom 3 are just one wide panel. So I guess it's a 7-panel grid, but you know what I mean. There's a 3-page sequence in the middle of that where Batman punches the Joker back, and then the Joker falls back, and Batgirl sort of grabs him, sort of as he's falling back, and puts him through a window. I just want to say how good the motion of those 3 panels are, where I completely understand how Joker's falling into the right place for her to sort of just put her arm around.
It's actually a really interesting paneling sequence because he gets punched, in that direction, and then Batgirl, when she throws him to the right into the next panel, essentially. And then when she kicks him out the window, whatever it is, he actually crashes out of the panel as the window breaks. So the window was the panel, essentially.
Yeah, Fabok's really good.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
I felt this really stuck out to me because I thought just the actual motion between the two moves was so specific that if the art didn't sell me on it, I'd be like, how did that work? But I was never confused. It made sense to me.
No.
The motion completely made sense between the double team, as it were. So the cops have got another Joker surrounded. Elsewhere, Batman goes off. Jason and Babs are left to babysit the other Joker. There's this first one, and Jason, unsurprisingly, is like,
can't handle it.
I know we should let's just kill him.
Yeah,
and it becomes this moral conflict between Jason and Babs.
Oh. And the Joker goads him.
Oh, of course, yeah.
He's setting him up. It's not like Jason started up from the start. Like, I'm not going to.
And this is where I didn't like the flashback stuff earlier, but Joker saying, "Hey, I remember what you said to me when you were begging for your life. I remember you saying, I'll do anything. I'll be your Robin. And look at you now. You're so violent and you're willing to kill people. You are my Robin. Ha 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 ha."
Yeah, you took my moniker.
Yeah, the Red Hood.
Red Hood thing and stuff. Yeah, and then you see Jason crying. Right, like I also was getting flashes of Return of the Joker from that sequence, from Batman Beyond. But yeah, and then we get Fabok doing the representation of that famous bloodied Jason from Death in the Family.
Not to mention the moment sort of standing still as we get multiple panels of the Joker falling as he's been shot in the head.
There's a weird line that maybe questions some continuity here. Joker says, "I wanted to leave you alive. I didn't want, if I killed you, there's no opportunity to hurt you or whatever." I'm like, is this trying to tell me this version of Jason didn't die?
I think that was just more of the. To me, I read that as a meta thing of the call to kill Jason. Right? Is technically Joker didn't kill Jason. The fans killed Jason.
I mean, technically, it was the explosion after Joker beat the crowbar.
Right.
They do say that he did die here and that he came back. So I mean, I don't think it's actually suggesting that he didn't die. He said that he didn't want to kill him, but he didn't. He went too far or whatever. He got into the moment. He got excited. I do like the moment afterwards though, because Batgirl tried to stop him, of course, and Jason's like, "Hey, when was the last time you missed?" And we see the Batarang just kind of like in the wall, and she's
just as an art critique, when she was actually throwing it, it didn't feel like she missed because you see it hit his hand, blood comes off it. It felt like it had knocked it off target to me.
Right.
And then, I mean, like, 'cause you can see the connection, the blood. It felt like she hit, and then it's like you missed. I was like, wait, what?
I think it's missing in the same way that if you graze a shoulder instead of hitting someone in the face, that's a miss.
Yeah, she could have hit him square in the hand.
Yeah.
And it would have,
Sure.
But deep down, she didn't want to.
Yeah, I don't really like this, to be honest.
I mean,
I just don't like that choice. That doesn't feel like Babs at all to me.
Well, that's the point, though. It's not. It's not a choice. It's just like that's why when he points it out and she sort of looks down and then she's crying and says, "Screw you, Jason," and storms off.
When I said choice, I didn't mean Babs' choice. I meant John's choice as a writer, as a storytelling choice. Because even subconsciously, that doesn't feel like the right decision for me.
I don't know. High pressure situation and whatnot. I don't know. I mean, I want Babs to be the best of us. But...
For me, after all this, after all the stuff we've had with Babs in the past, I'm like stuff dealing with her brother, for example, where she didn't kill him, she kept him alive through everything. Like, and then now this, but the idea that was so personal, it pushed her to the limits more than anything, even more than the Joker did, and still, like, no, she didn't, she was on Batman's side of the argument here, so to speak. This here, even subconsciously, that she wasn't anymore, I just don't really like that.
I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I mean, it still works for me, just for with her because of that, because of the, like, screw you, Jason.
Oh.
Okay. Everything good?
Yeah, just start your sentence again, Matt.
Yeah. No, it's like she didn't realize that she meant to miss, you know.
Yeah,
like, she was trying, but it's her subconscious, and now she has to deal with that. And if we get it and it gets revealed, she was like, no, yeah, I wanted you to kill the Joker, then sure.
Yeah, because I don't think the point of this is that she did want him to kill the Joker per se. It's more, of course, even Batman has admitted deep down, yeah, of course he's thought about it. He thinks about it and thinks of all the good it would do if he did just kill him.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of what if I just don't stop him in time, kind of thing. But without even the thought process part, just the this kind of instinctual thing.
Also, don't forget, Jason's a bit of a villain himself, so him putting that into Babs's head, how many times do you miss?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, like, is this even genuine, or is he just putting the doubt in her head, and now she's upset because she's believing that maybe she did that on purpose?
Because he has no qualms about killing people. We know that.
Yeah, I always say this. Like, I don't necessarily even mind a story where Batman accidentally or is put in a position. We can't do it too often, obviously, but if it happens where someone ends up dying because of Batman, I'm okay as long as the reaction from Batman makes sense and it's a story that we deal with and go through. And Bab's reaction to this, even being accused of this, it clearly hits her. And even if it is intentional and she admits that later, and then there's guilt over thinking that and thinking that she's failed herself or something, like, as long as it treats it with the right tact and the right character development from it, then I can get on board with it. Like, I can see the value in it. Nothing about this so far is raising like huge red flags for me. So,
no, like I said, it's a good first issue, and if some of my issues keep happening, right, if stuff doesn't get resolved in the next two, then sure. But again, I'm gonna wait for that to happen because I do trust in John's.
It'll be the third one before anything's resolved, though, of course. I don't suspect there's going to be...
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. But, like, again, if Babs comes up and she has a discussion with Bruce and she's like, no, Jason's right, I did want him to kill the Joker, then I'm going to be like, all right, Johns, that's weak sauce. Come on, man. Now I said it, now it's going to happen. Now I'm upset with myself.
Well, it depends on how she says it. It depends, like, what if deep down I did want it? What if she's questioning it? Or
if it's a question,
there's lots of ways that you tackle this. I feel like this is the type of story because everyone's sort of like sitting with their arms fully going, all right, John's impressed me because this idea, this concept from the start is something that a lot of us have been against or whatever. I think if you're not a fan of the Joker or Joker stories, this is definitely not for you. If you don't like Geoff Johns' writing, this is definitely not for you. Like, that's just out the way, right? Just get that out of the way. That's just a fact as far as this comic goes.
So you say that, and I'm not a big Joker person, but I mostly enjoyed this still.
I think you like to pretend you're not a big Joker guy.
I'm not a big Joker guy. Like, I'll say that. Like, we all know this. I find him very overrated, and in Batman's Rogues Gallery, there's better for my money. Like, I feel Two-Face is a better villain than Joker. Joker just gets all the playoff money. You know what I mean? So,
sure.
I don't know.
I just think, for me, I like Joker stories. I've not all of them, obviously. There are good and bad ones, but I'm very open to Joker stories. I've enjoyed a lot of them. I've liked pretty much everything from John's before, so I think it's safe to say I'm definitely a John's fan. I think that's not exactly news. But I just didn't enjoy reading this issue, despite those things.
My counterpoint to that, I mean, obviously we've went through it and talked about the various choices that have been made, and obviously how good the art is, but is, I guess, just the outside of the flashback stuff at the start, I did enjoy reading it, and I was into the story, I was into the intrigue of what's going on with these three, and the characters kind of realize it. I guess the only question I was having as I was reading it was, well, presumably this is set after Batman asked the question in the chair. How in continuity it is now is, another question, but clearly that set this up, so... as Babs is starting to question, what if there's more than one? I was expecting Batman to turn around and say, well, here's the thing. I kind of asked the Morbius chair, and it might have implied that there was three of them. So,
right. Well, and also, Fabok was his last regular gig, right? Was that Justice League?
Yeah, Darkseid War.
I think it might have been.
Darkseid War.
Yeah. That was so wrong.
I mean, it follows the art and artist and writer tree, right? So who knows?
All right, Jason with his mask off, just with the little, the little black eye mask. He's giving me some serious Winter Soldier vibes. The way he's drawn at the end of this.
Which it's always hilarious to me that Bucky came back and Jason came back that way around the same time.
Yeah, kind of
And
similar.
they were
times,
independent of each other. It's not like Winnick and Brubaker knew what the other was doing. It was just like that point in the mid 2000s. We're gonna bring back the two sidekicks that have always been dead. And
Yeah.
although that said, Jason did show up earlier in Hush, but it wasn't.
That
Spoiler alert! It's not really.
I mean, yeah, spoilers for Hush at this point.
I'm saying.
Who'd have guessed that things that characters aren't what they seem in Hush?
Yeah.
Of all stories, but that was first, and obviously it wasn't Jason. But I assume that set the seeds of. But what if? The idea. I don't know if it was Winnick's choice to run with that, or if it was editorial kind of going, "Hey, there was a good response to that. Maybe we should." Maybe we should bring him back. I don't know which way around it came, but I'm assuming it was the reaction or something.
I remember when it happened, and I just like the idea of him becoming DC's Punisher. Just he has an antagonistic relationship with Bruce, and Bruce is going to try to stop him, Daredevil Punisher style, and whatnot. And I like that, but it's been so corrupted by a certain writer over the course. Because that's been the one writer that's been allowed. Because I do feel like when Tom Taylor used him in Unkillables, it was kind of that perfect. Of course, he's going to be the one that survives something like that because he has zero qualms.
Don't worry. I'm sure Connor, when he gets to read the new writer on Red Hood, will tell us how it is and how it progresses.
And if that's true, that's fine. That's fine, because I liked when Tynan wrote Jason for those few issues of Red Hood and the Outlaws that I read back in the New 52.
Yeah. So given that this one kind of dealt with obviously the crowbar Joker, for lack of a better term, clearly the next one I assume, because I assume we're saving the classic one for last, and the next one will be Babsy's maybe more direct focus with the comedian one, yeah. So
yeah, I like how Pete called it the crowbar Joker for lack of a better term, where it gave us a better term in the issue.
I can't remember which one's which.
I don't like the clown as that, though, because to me, he's not a clown. He's a psycho. So they could have called him the psychopath.
I just...
Sure.
Reading one issue is not enough to cement in my head which one is which. I couldn't remember, right? But yes, so he ran with him dead. Jason's looking down at him, and that's the end of the issue. So, I do think the art's wonderful. It feels like a prestige book. I do think the page count and the quality of the art and all that does kind of justify the maybe not as much of a price tag as it has, but definitely bigger than normal.
Yeah, I don't feel like I got ripped off for the money. You know what I mean?
I feel the same way.
Packed. And it's Fabok. Oh, man, I'm so happy to see Fabok back, because it's been in the button. It was the last regular work that we got from Fabok.
You say regular work. That was what?
2 issues.
2 issues, yeah.
But that's what I mean. I mean, he's been working on this and other things. I think he does work as as a concept artist as well. I think that's what he told us when we saw him at that con. He does things like Remender does too. So I don't know, or if he's just been hard at work on this, but I'm here for it. I like Fabok a lot.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it's kind of like a Doomsday Clock light for me, where I'm getting a lot of the sort of intrigue and storytelling that kind of had and the mystery that had, but it's not as good, obviously, and I definitely have some problems with the flashback stuff early on. And I'm definitely, I don't know if I'm going to be satisfied with how it wraps up its story, but it does feel like it's building to something, maybe something meta, maybe something about how Joker split into 3, or how these are from other Earths or so. I don't know, but we'll see where it goes. So Matt, what are you giving Batman 3 Jokers issue 1?
It might seem a little bit high, but the art is really doing. But I'm gonna give this an 8.
I think that's a perfectly fair score. I'm tempted to nudge it a little bit higher, but I'm actually just going to agree with Matt and go with a straight 8. Art's fantastic. I'm digging the mystery for now, and like I say, and my complaints were made earlier. Connor, what are you giving it?
It's a tough question. The art is great, and it's definitely worth a good few points on its own. But pacing problems I didn't like, some dialogue, some choices, just concepts. 5.5.
Good lord.
The degrader strikes again, as some of our.
Joe, I'm so disappointed by this book. I wanted to love this book. I thought I was going to. I was excited to read this Tuesday. I was like, I got to get this plus spoilers. And now I'm like, I guess I'll read the next one.
All right, Mr. Miserable over here. Wonder Woman. What?
That's a shirt, Mr. Miserable.
I was going to say, well, one before the last time this week.
Well, yeah, but that's fine. All right. Wonder Woman 761, Mariko Tamaki writing with Carlo Barberi on the art. So this is, we had a cliffhanger last time. Matt wasn't here for the last issue. I assume you liked the ending of the last issue because it was great.
I did.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, so we had Wonder Woman wake up, or she attacked a bunch of what she thought was parademons, and then woke up and realized, wait, these are all just soldiers. What have I done? And this issue deals with that directly, and really brings into the question that she can't trust what she's seeing. Because there's a point where she starts seeing Cheetah, and she's like, but she's having to stop and go, wait a minute, I can't trust this. I don't know if Cheetah's really standing there. Which then pays off in a great way, because Maxwell Lord actually is there. She's like, nah, are you really here? And it's like, yeah, he's really here. He's going to help us.
I did like that. She's the one that has to deal with truth, right? That's like her thing. Mm-hmm. And now she can't trust her own self.
Yeah.
And I love that combo.
I think that too.
In the story.
I think that the whole idea of it not being Lord behind everything, his text being used, because even she like uses the lasso on him and is making him like sort of say all this stuff, and he's being honest about it. He's like, hey, yes, I created all this stuff, but I'm not the one doing this. My stuff's been used.
More on Suicide Squad later.
Yeah.
The fact that we're getting a double turn with these characters not lost on me.
Yeah, it does solidify some continuity stuff, because we mentioned, I think we mentioned when he first showed up, the last couple of times we saw him was in No Justice and Justice League vs. Suicide Squad, and it actually directly references that here, where basically he made a choice to stop trying to control people, because he's through No Justice and the breaking of the Source Wall, he saw it was futile, so he just gave up.
However, he still tried to. OMAC is still continuity, and he still tried to weaponize individuals to kill superheroes. So I don't trust you, Max Lord.
He's still Max Lord, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's squeaky clean. That's not. Not pretend otherwise.
But still, him thinking that it's futile, I was like, sure you do.
At one point she sees him with like Ares' helmet on, and all sorts.
It was a pretty cool showcase for the artist to deal with a bunch of different Wonder Woman villains, which is always cool.
Barberi was on Super Sun, some Super Sun stuff at one point. That's where I kind of remember this art from. It's not as good as Yanin, I don't think.
Well, yeah.
I do think it's pretty good, though. I do think the art is good, although...
I'm not a fan.
You're not a fan? I do think occasionally, I think the full page early on, where Wonder Woman's face is like most of the page, I do think her face looks a little bit like it's also a narrow and in the middle.
There's a lot of that squashed face syndrome in this that I don't really like. Honestly, a big part of this is but just on the background, double shipping is terrible right now for artists, and it completely kills the flow of stories. It's fine when I'm swapping artists arc by arc. I can kind of live with that. But, we got 2 issues of Janet, and then we're on to something else in the middle of the story. I'm struggling. I'm struggling with this as a way of getting into the story. It's kind of taking me out. And Barberi here, it's not terrible, but it hasn't got. It's lost all of the impact in the pacing that Janin had. There's no really strong layouts. There's no border work. There's nothing. It's lost all of the art flair that made this book what it was. And I still like the writing. I think the ideas are still solid and the dialogue's solid. But it's lost all of that presentation flair that made this book so enjoyable for me for the first 2 issues. And it's left me quite disappointed by this one.
I'm just smirking to myself a little bit that we spoke for a couple of minutes at the setting up what the book was. And the first thing Carter said was a little rant about the thing he doesn't like.
I mean, it's quite a big thing when it's not just. I'm not nitpicking a moment here. I'm talking about as a whole.
Oh no, I get it. I get it. I almost want to start keeping track of how often like we'll go into a book and I'll set it up with kind of a positive. Here's what the book is, and it does these things well, and it's just good. And then over to Connor for the negative spin.
I am disappointed. This is a disappointing week for me so far.
It's not as good as Jan's are. I completely agree. I think some of the pages look good though. I love her flying with the plane and all that stuff towards the end.
But now that Connor mentioned the squash face thing, I'm kind of like, damn it! Now that's all I can see. So thanks for ruining it.
No, I always saw that, but it was kind of thing where I do think the art overall looks pretty good. It's a bit cartoonier than what Jan was doing for sure. But I love this. It's
not even just the style that I can get past. It's the pacing and the layout of it, and all the little flair that it had that's gone.
It feels like this one. That's supposed to be like an action match. Jesus Christ. So there's a subplot throughout the issue though with this general or whoever it is.
Formerly retired Marine.
Yeah.
I think it was.
He's basically he's being controlled like the other characters have been controlled, and he's basically got in and it's he's going to launch. Was it a nuke or something in Arizona? Yeah. So one of them in that race off towards the end, they've figured out that it's a phone app that's actually doing this. Like, so if someone takes a selfie or whatever with this app, then that's the back door. The end of this issue does reveal who is behind everything, and it's a villain that was spoiled. Not exactly who she is. Well, maybe that was in solicits. I just didn't read it. But the fact that there was a villain was spoiled beforehand. Connor brought it up in the last issue, but it's the neighbor. It was
all in solicits as to who she was.
Was it? So I never saw who she was. So I actually, the fact that she's Maxwell Lord's daughter was a genuine surprise to me here at the end of this.
Me too.
And I'm surprised that I am not upset at. I will say.
No.
I like it more than just random person next door as a villain.
No, and I like it that it's almost inverse of Kale. That Kale was the main enemy, yet Diana wanted to do good by her daughter, and through the ruckus stuff, and now the daughter's the villain, and Diana's gonna want to do good by Max Lord, despite everything that he's done. So I kind of like that little wrinkle in this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of spoke about it last issue. I like that addition of her being the door and that thematic link there. I'm just disappointed about not having the human supporting cast that I thought we were getting.
We may still get that.
I was so excited about that in the first issue. If you go back and listen, I'm sure that was like one of the big things for me.
I do think Tamaki
losing that is just disappointing.
I do think Tamaki knows what she's doing though, because there's a line earlier on where Diana's like, "Oh, I was trying to find my neighbor to make sure she's okay." That sets up the sting of this at the end a little bit, which I think works well. So.
I complain about Max Lord and all the stuff and Diana, but Diana really is the most forgiving. Like, look at most of her villains, is that she ends up trying to be friends with them, whether it's Giganta, Veronica, Silver Swan, Cheetah.
Yeah,
like, you can't. Why not add Max Lord to that?
Well, you can't really count Lord in this shit because the entire time she's like, "I don't trust you. You're evil. It doesn't matter what he says."
Right, but it's on brand for the character. It's not like Superman and Lex and Batman and all of his. Like, she is she's a goddess, right? She tries to see the best in everybody, and it usually bites her in the butt. So, no, something that I thought I would complain about, but it actually, when you think about the grand scheme of the character, it checks out. Yeah.
So no, actually, the fact that it's the daughter is the villain and not just not a random neighbor, it makes it a bit more compelling for me.
I will say, given that she's, her name is Liar Liar, is a villain name, I think. So it says that at the bottom next. Not the best name, I'll be honest with you. But I like the idea of using the Odysseus branch of Lord's company, and that's the branch, because Odysseus' whole thing is he's a terrible liar and trickster. Like that's how he does everything. So I kind of like that.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So.
Nice player there.
Yeah, I mean, I think this issue was quite quick to talk about because a lot of it in the middle was Maxwell Lord explaining stuff, and it's Wonder Woman seeing Cheetah and doubting herself. It's kind of an excuse for the artist to go kind of nuts and draw a lot of big Wonder Woman and Justice League stuff. I will say, in the page where it was doing the Justice League Suicide Squad stuff, seeing Jessica Cruz at the top made me like, oh, I want a Jessica Cruz in a book again.
Hey,
a good book.
Those Odyssey characters are gonna be appearing in the death metal tie-in. So by the end of that,
title is basically dead or soon to be. So
Yeah.
it frees them up.
So it's hopefully soon.
Well, that's what I mean, though, is that, and we have Williamson writing that one for the death metal tie-in. So maybe by the end we'll be back, because I want Corey back too.
Yeah,
So
get him a Green Lantern Corps book.
Yep. Just a space book. Just give me all my space characters, one area. It's fine.
Yeah. So Matt, what are you giving Wonder Woman 761?
I'm gonna give this one a 7.
That's fair, Connor.
6 from me.
I'm also going to go with the 7. I do think it's the weakest issue so far. Although I do think it's maybe paced a little bit better than issue 2. I think issue 2 really benefited from that back, like sort of third, that the big reveal really like elevating the whole issue. But obviously the art's not as good in this one. I like everything that's setting up though, so enjoying the run still. So I'll give it I'll also give it a 7. There you go. All right, so The Flash, 760, Joshua Williamson writing with Christian Duce and Scott Kolins on the art. Again, the art is separated by which we now know is the starting line, is where Max Mercury and Jesse Quick are, along with Barry, of course, right now at the start of this issue.
Everything, Pete, I don't know if I'm just over-exaggerating. All the BS that we went through, I feel Williamson is paying off in this arc, because here's another issue that I really loved, because it hits on all the beats of The Flash that I love. Including Jesse Quick and Max Mercury and Jay Garrick and another character that shows up, but we'll get to him.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd necessarily say it makes it all worth it per se, but I can't deny that I'm not super into this stuff. I mean, I popped for Jay's appearance. It has the big cliffhanger last issue where Jay popped up at the end was
it's fantastic,
and the art in here is really good. A little inside baseball here for people is that I read this issue right after Action Comics, so the art looked especially good.
Even I've seen people say that they're not a big fan of Scott Kolins. It's just it comes down to taste. But I think even if you gave them Action and then this, they'd be like, "Oh my God, Scott Kolins is amazing."
I know. That said, though, I do think the Duce stuff is the better of the two. I think that 2-page layout early on with Jay and Evil Barry. Or Thornberry, whatever you want to call him, it is pretty great. The issue boils down to the villains assembling at Nora Allen's grave. I think it's interesting how Thorn just openly talks about Barry Allen. Like, do all these villains know who he is now? Do they care? Like, what's...
Yeah.
You know? But, they kind of get taken out. The Flash families show up to stop whatever's going on here. Trickster kind of betrays Thorn, and Thorn sends him back to his own timeline. And then I assume, I assume you got something out of the Bart kind of talking down his evil father.
Yeah, that was nice. Is that something happens to the Tornado Twins, and that's why Iris raises him, and he has to be raised in virtual reality. So the fact that he was kind of like, "Hey, Dad, none of this is your fault, and it's okay." I do like that. It shows his forgiveness. And that goes a long way with Bart Allen. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, and they fade away. It's all very good stuff. Inside the starting line, though, Thaddeus shows up. He's in there, too.
His evil twin brother.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen Inertia since Rogue's Revenge, where the Rogues decide to kill Inertia because he is responsible for the death of Bart Allen, and that the Rogues don't kill. And oh man, so seeing him pop up as an agent of Thawne in the starting line, I was like, okay, Williamson, this is his, like, he's going all out now.
Well, we've been waiting so long for these Flash family sort of like pages of them all stand together. Barry basically is able to think his way out, and he brings Max and Jesse with him. So we get that top half of that page. Where now I did laugh here a little bit though, and this is the TV show's fault, because the page is fantastic, right? The page is fantastic. You got Jay, Barry, Avery, Wallace. I mean, you got Jesse, Max, and Bart. The only person missing is Wally, of course, for annoying reasons. Yeah, but Barry's line in this page, he's like, "This is the mistake you've always made, Thawne. Is we're the Flash," and That's really funny because the TV show had a whole thing for a season where Iris and Barry kept saying, "We're the Flash." It's not just Barry; it's a marriage thing. We are the Flash. And then it didn't pay it off in the episode where the powers get swapped, and she had the powers. Like there was such an obvious joke to do there, where he's like, "We're the Flash, though, right?" And she's like, "Nah, sucker, I've got the powers.
I'm the Flash.
I'm the Flash.
Yeah, I'm the Flash."
But they never did.
Yeah, but no, seeing them all there, and it's not just it's the additions of Wallace and Avery too. Like really, it's Wally and his family the only thing that are missing, and that hurts. It's just a teensy bit,
Yeah. I mean,
but they're all there.
Williamson was teasing on Twitter this week that Wally stuff is happening, at least in death metal, if not more beyond.
Well, the fact that he's one of the key storytellers in death metal, and the fact that he was sharing out what looked like panels from his Flash when he told that part of the story, because that wasn't from Rebirth, the one shot. It was the other take of it.
Yeah.
That this is what it's been building to. So hopefully something, he knows something. But yeah.
He's got something. But then Thawne, even the playing field, runs off and collects his Legion of Zoom, which is, all the Flash villains, basically.
Yeah.
All of them.
So, man, we got a bunch of them in here.
I can name a decent amount of these characters. I don't know if I can name all of them.
No, you got Twister, you got who's the sniper guy over there? He's in the back.
You got
Ragdoll.
Ragdoll, Tarpet, what else we got in there?
They mostly seem familiar.
Yeah. A whole host of them. Obviously the obvious ones that we don't feel the need to point out. Who's the big red at the back?
The red at the back, that's Bloodwork. That was Williamson's own creation.
Oh, right. I mean, I remember Bloodwork. I just don't remember him specifically looking like that. But fair enough.
Yeah. He was a big blood monster. What I like too is that Razor's there, and I always bring up that the first comic I ever bought as a kid was an issue of the Flash, and I always forget what number. I want to say it's 68, where it was Wally versus Razor, and Razor's right there, standing behind Abracadabra and the Turtle. So that was real cool to see him pop up right there.
No, I mean, you get the sense that Williamson loves Flash history and Flash mythology, and he's trying to incorporate everything he can. And they're letting him go nuts here for his last arc, which is great. It's a shame that obviously Wally's kind of left out, at least for now. Maybe he'll pull him into it by the end. Maybe he'll be the key. Yeah. He'll be the final piece of the puzzle.
He is the finish line.
Yeah. We have, 2 more issues left?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because this was part 3.
2.
So, this is 2? So then, part 4 would make more sense. But it's really good. It's, again, I feel like the stuff that I trudged through and then I quit and then I came back. So yeah, maybe right. Paradox in year 1, whatever. Maybe it wasn't that good. But however, this makes me feel great as a Flash fan. So
year 1 was frustrating though because it was kind of rocky for a while, and we were hoping year 1 would bring it back round, and it ended up being worse than everything that had happened before it. So that was a really awkward thing. But hey, this was a solid enough issue. It didn't have. I think the cliffhanger from last issue was more of a surprise and therefore more exciting. Whereas the cliffhanger of this one, you could see it coming. You could see all this stuff at the end coming a mile away. It was kind of your typical setup to the big fight issue. But it was a solid edition of it. So, it's another thing where I think if you're rating this in a purely objective way, it's probably like a 6 or something like that, because it's just kind of a serviceable, does the beats that it's supposed to do. But I think the love of the characters and the art being quite good kind of raises up a bit above that. So what are you rating them at?
I'm going to give this a 7.5. But I'm also a hack that loves the Flash, so I can't help it.
I'm going to go with the straight 7, I think. But good. This is a really good 7, because everything it's doing is exciting and playing to our sensibilities. So, happy days. There you go. That's the Flash. Suicide Squad, issue 8. Tom Taylor writing with Daniel Sempere on the art. And we have mostly a flashback issue. It's kind of an origin story.
For the Wink and Airy. Or the Airy and Wink.
Airy and Wink, yeah. Setting up some context. I obviously have some bookends with the other characters interacting with them, because they're telling them the story, basically. and explaining the country and what Ted Cord might be trying to do. That's kind of the start of it. Is that Ted Cord's seemingly trying to get to this country, the oil reserve.
Badnesia.
Yeah, Badnesia. I think I'm kind of with Matt here actually, and that somehow Harleen's rejuvenated Harley for me. And maybe it's just because Tom Taylor's writing her, but I kind of chuckled a little bit at her getting snacks for the show and tell.
Is this the first step to Pete watching the Harley Quinn show?
I don't know. I could watch him like him hating it. Definitely.
I would love to watch Pete watching that show.
Yes, yeah, that could be a Patreon thing, like, you know.
I mean,
so, anyways, just let Tom Taylor do whatever. Like, so at this point, like he's proven himself with established characters, and now you have this really sweet origin for Wink and Airy that, man, I don't know, like it's almost too perfect. Like, I feel like there's a shoe about to drop with one. They
set this thing up where her country, like, discovered oil, right? And Deadshot says, well, you just want it to be left alone. Why not just sell it all, and therefore you can be left alone and be rich? You're on a gold mine. In fact, no, you're on something more valuable than a gold mine. Was the I love that line. And she's like, well, because we're an island and the sea levels keep rising. We didn't want to contribute to climate change, so no, we morally stood our ground and said no, we don't want that.
Yeah. Right. Which I spaced. Go ahead.
No, carry on.
Oh, I spaced on the Airy being the kid of the president. I forgot about that because that happened first arc.
It was like the second issue, maybe.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah, something like that. I kind of forgot about that, but I do like how that plays into not just them joining the Renegades and whatnot, but it's a personal. I'm doing this to protect my homeland.
Revolutionaries.
Right, the revolutionaries. There you go.
Yeah. So basically, it's this story how instead of basically she got kidnapped, and her mother never gave in, and she was proud of her mother for not giving up.
Let's use the right signifiers, Pete.
Sorry.
It's they. For the Airy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. That's Taylor's intent, because Wink points it out numerous times. So.
Wing actually asks if that was correct in this issue. There's a moment where uses they and then looks at the area and is like, "Is that right?" And they're like, "Yeah, they."
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean that. It was just
no. We know you didn't mean it, but still, I just wanted to, because I know someone would point that out because it was in the book. So, but as you were.
Yeah. So got kidnapped, and basically, because the ransom didn't work, it didn't, the blackmail didn't work. It was like, well, we'll sell them off for basically metahuman experiments and something or other. It was
they try to break the Airy, and they won't break because their mom, I guess, is a hardcore president, right? That you can train your kid to not break under torture.
Mike.
Yes, there's very much we do not negotiate with terrorists vibe going on from the mother there.
Yeah, and so
which is pretty badass given that this is her kid, right? Like that's a pretty badass thing to do. It's like, no, I'm not negotiating with you.
Oh man, and then so put them in this thing, put them in this like meta gene thing, and so I did like that their origin comes from this experimentation basically to turn them into soldiers or whatever. And just
I like as well that it has a link to the Suicide Squad already, kind of in that they recruit from here because hey, this
we see
off the Bucks training ground.
We see Waller show up eventually and take one of the TNTs as we
which
were they Teen Titans maybe?
I think believe so.
Because at first when I saw them, I was like, oh, I know these, and I was like, they've not been in this book, right? And then I think they were in the Teen Titans stuff when they got that big revamp around the 30s or so.
Yeah, the art here is obviously very good, but that page where the first takeoff with the wings, the big blue wings and the sun's behind them, and it's the coastline. That page is gorgeous. I mean, obviously you have the lens flare effect that's been added onto it to give it this effect, but it is very effective in what it's doing. Right? It's got this really great visual to it. But it's this kind of sad story, this kind of prison cellmate story, where Wink is able to teleport in the room and forms this friendship, which obviously develops more to the big kiss later on. And they see, TNT being taken away, and Wink basically says, "Look, we're going to get out of here, and I'm going to trust you to fly, because I can only teleport so far." We get the whole pizza joke where no one delivers pizza out here, so it's only the frozen one that the guards had.
It looks pretty good for a frozen one.
Best I can do. It does,
but it's not delivery; it's DiGiorno. I don't know if you guys got that there, but that's a local takeaway pizza from the store and bake it. But it's so good, it always looks like it's delivery. That's what I thought it.
No, every store has their own. So obviously they all have their own cheap frozen pizzas, but then most of them have a premium takeaway frozen pizza. Some are better than others.
Okay, no, TNT was a revolutionary at the beginning.
Is that one of the ones that died in the first issue?
Yeah. So that's even him. That's Taylor going back, and yeah. Anyways, because I was like, why is that so familiar? They were the Teen Teens.
What was the one in Teen Titans that sounds familiar? Then that's made me remind me of that.
I don't know.
I'd have to go back and check.
I have no idea.
So,
but yeah, so the big great escape happens. Also, we have the sad part actually, because Wink doesn't interfere when Waller's trying to take the kid, and basically says that I don't want them to know I have my powers, because once you have your powers and they know it works, they'll ship you off, they'll sell you to someone, they'll you're expected to like be a part of something, and doesn't want that. So it's I thought there was a real sense of tragedy. Speaking of beautiful art, the sunset on the tree with the bandaged wing, all that stuff.
Yep.
Looked really
and
good.
Croc, oh man, doing the stepping on the airy in just the wing, like it's so heartbreaking.
Vicious.
Yeah.
I think it's impressive to me that we have an issue of Suicide Squad where we focus on these two characters that are new to the book, and obviously you hope that books can do this and can introduce new characters and make you care, because if the writing's good, then you'll care about the new characters and they'll be established and they'll mean something, and he's probably going to kill at least one of these two characters off to make us cry by the end of this run.
Yeah, that's why I'm worried. That's what I'm worried about.
But like, so many books will try this and it'll be like kind of annoying. It's like, oh, we're focused on these weird new characters. The writers try to like give these new characters their time, and it doesn't always work. But you get examples. In fact, one of the most annoying ones ever that was good was Scott Snyder's Harper Row issue, because I feel like Harper Row just got abandoned.
She's coming back in something.
We'll see.
She's showing up in something soon. She was in the solicits.
We'll see.
And I feel like Taylor's really good at this too, because you go back, we always bring up his all new Wolverine, and look what he did with Gabby.
Oh, of course, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
and Gabby is a brand new character that's now gone on, and I don't know where she stands with the Hickman stuff right now. It's all real weird, but up to that point,
It's a generous way of putting it.
I'll just add on to the Harper Row thing, is that having some occasional appearances is not the same as capitalizing, because it felt like it was being set up, she was being set up to be capitalized on in that run, and then
I agree. It felt like she was going to be the next Robin figure, essentially,
or something like that. Yeah,
the whole idea of Bluebird, right? Like different than the Robin, but and then just kind of was left to wither.
I feel like Snyder really wanted to set those up. He didn't want to play with the toys himself, but he wanted to leave them as options, because he did it with Duke as well, to be fair, for better or for worse. He did set him up and kind of bring him in. And like I said, Harper as well. I don't think he ever had a story to tell with them. I don't think he ever had ideas to play with them. He just wanted to leave something for other people to play with when he was done. Sadly, not enough people have.
That's really frustrating though, because to me that's like, I don't know. It feels weird to me, because it was such a good issue. It was one of his best issues even in that run, and to not actually do anything with it, just feels like a weird setup for no payoff to me. But yes.
I mean, if she gets used over the years and kind of becomes a thing, it won't matter in the long run. It'll just be like, oh, she was set up, forgotten about a bit, and we brought by. It'll be It'll be no
Sure.
different to any time Morrison grabbed a character and brought them back out
Yeah,
of obscurity and became a thing.
Given how many characters who used to have their own books are now occasionally get obligatory little appearances to appease the fans who still love them, I'm not convinced that Harper Row is going to get any better treatment than those characters who had much bigger legacies.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it's hard to say for sure. You just never know.
You never know. It's unlikely, though.
I mean, sure.
The odds are stacked against her. That's all I'm saying.
Anyways,
her own creator,
Suicide Squad.
her own creator would give her a proper follow-up story. Anyway, yes. So the big escape happens, big kiss. I like the awkward comedy of the other TN team being like, "This is awkward," during the kiss.
I don't blame him for that.
No, not at all. So yeah, and Harley's reaction to it. Hey, it was a bit depressing in the middle, but what an ending!
What an ending! Yeah.
Yeah, all good stuff. But of course, the big reveal here is that Ted Kord, seemingly gone full evil, is going to use the TNT, the one that they got, of course, who they've got in like a test tube.
The big one.
They're going to use the kid to blow up the country.
Blow up all the oil reserves.
Yeah.
But then there's someone else in another tube that we don't get to see.
That's true. Yeah, as a silhouette. Yeah, who does speak, says someone will stop you. It's only a matter of time. So clearly, this is someone who's a hero or some kind.
Right.
Well, it's a hero we know. I mean, it probably is because they're teasing who it is.
I think the fact that they kept it in silhouette means it's someone we know.
Yeah.
Yep.
What should be Kate Man? Kate Man. It's Kate Man. I'm putting it. My money's on the table.
Oh, yeah. Here's my thing with Ted. Look, Taylor. I get it. You want to have your rich people can be real bad, even if they intend good.
Actually,
I get it.
There was a line in this. I guess
they called him
the
most.
It was one of the news reports early on. They said he was the last,
the only ethical billionaire.
And I actually sort of chuckled to myself and went, "Oh, I guess Bruce Wayne's keeping up the charade quite well then. If they think he's a scumbag."
Maybe they just think he's a multimillionaire and not a billionaire.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Also, worth noting, he did just lose all his money, so he's just nothing now.
I mean, where did the books line up continuity? It's hard to say.
I don't know. I don't think about it. Anyways. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so Joker's definitely not an ethical billionaire.
No. There's a political joke in there, and I'm not going to make it.
That is remarkable restraint for you, Matt.
Thank you.
Yes,
I'll just say he could run for office, and he'd probably get the nomination from a certain party. I'm just saying. Anyway, so he gets the military to line up nuclear subs around the island, right? And he wants his island for the oil reserves, and he goes on full on Heisenberg Breaking Bad here. Yet, I still want the reason. Maybe we're gonna get it, but to have Ted Kord, who is this beloved character, and to have it like this,
the run's not done yet.
Enough faith in Taylor that
I do too.
That there's a reason. There's something. He wouldn't just be throwing, because this would be infuriating. If this is just Ted Kord's an evil piece of shit now.
I mean, no, that's the thing though. That can be the swerve though. The swerve can be that there is no actual swerve. Like if he plays it the right way, the reveal can be that no, he is just this evil, and we'll get some sort of issue exploring how he became this evil.
No, Pete. You just saying there like, oh, you'd hate them to leave Harper behind. There's all these characters that get the obligatory thing here or there because people like them. No. This is Ted Kord just making him evil. That would be like a complete character assassination.
This is Booster's best friend, right? He's one of Guy Gardner's friends,
He's
right?
spent decades on the goddamn Justice League,
right? And like when you looked at Max Lord and Johns turned him for what they were doing with Infinite Crisis, it all made sense because he was always kind of like the sleazy business guy, right? And that was the cover. But Ted was almost the heart of the Justice League International.
I almost want him to just be evil now, just to piss off Connor, right? That's conversation is down to me.
Fair enough. I don't want to be disappointed with an issue of this book of all books.
I need the Bond monologue of him going, "Look, and basically turning him into a Ra's al Ghul. Like, look, the Earth's dying. You got to break an omelet, or you got to make an omelet to break a few eggs, right?
Can I just
break egg to make the omelet?
Let me speculate here. Have we ruled out Hush?
No.
It's not.
Come to find out, the Cords are also a close family friend of the Elliots, and he was going after the wrong kid. Ted secretly been Tommy Elliott the whole time.
As a Hush motivation, you know, he couldn't get Bruce. He tried, you know, I don't know how in continuity that stuff is. He tried being Bruce, and it didn't pull it off that well. It just didn't work in the long run. So now here, he took a different billionaire, one that was less in the public eye, a little bit easier to get to.
I mean,
that would be an interesting story. Forgetting
specifics, right? Your options here, if it's assuming Ted's just not somehow went evil, is a master of disguise, which is like Hush, for example, a shapeshifter of some kind. I don't know. I think it's Clayface, but you know, that could be a possibility in normal circumstances. A mind control situation or control of some kind.
That's lazy. I don't like that.
Given that he's doing this sort of evil talking in front of these characters, it doesn't seem like he's just being forced to do it against his will.
No, I would say the fourth thing is context. If this isn't
sure,
we're seeing a lot of this. I mean, I know these scenes aren't from our character's point of view, but the book is filtered through these characters. It's their, you know, even these scenes where he's being evil, it's kind of an assumption of that.
Necessary evil is what you're saying.
Yeah. If there's some genuine logic to what he's doing, you know, if not just he thinks he's doing all right, you know, like no, the plan works. It makes sense to us as the reader that we understand what he's doing here. That's a good reason.
Yeah. Well, I think what he's doing, and this is why I'm going to give Tom Taylor a lot of credit here, is this is kind of Watchmen, but he's taking Night Owl and turning him into Ozymandias, right? He's that character that started off noble, and now he realizes, like, Ozymandias kind of had a point that I got to manipulate things.
There's something
you know
there.
What I mean?
Honestly, because I think correct me if I'm wrong, the revolutionaries, they suspect it's about money, right? It's this and this will make him richer. If that's the reason, genuinely the reason, I will hate it. Like there is no way of excusing that I will not, barring mind control or something like that.
Right.
Shapeshifter or Hush. If this is Ted Cord doing this just to get richer, I will hate it.
Yeah. Oh, me too. And that's why I think I have enough in him that it's about the bigger thing, because that was his whole death was about him uncovering this larger picture that no one was believing him on, right? Because they all had their hands busy doing something else. And so for Ted to come full circle now, is that he's running the same kind of thing where it's for the greater good, ultimately. And from his point of view, this is the only ethical thing to do, then I think it's fine. But as of this issue, him just Breaking Bad and evil monologuing to TNT and Rando in the tube, man, I don't like it. So, but I think that's the point, right?
Ted Cord's been dead for me since the start of Infinite Crisis, so everything they want to do with him now is very good.
Just this is a pretty wonderful issue, and I don't want to diminish any of the origin story stuff. Loved it all.
No,
that was good.
However, we didn't mention the best thing in the issue, because it comes right at the start, before all of the flashback story.
The name of the dog?
Dog Shot.
Dog Shot, yeah.
That is the best.
Oh yeah, it's worth mentioning. Yeah, Deadshot's wife and kid are with them.
Yeah. I think we knew that from the last issue.
I'm just keeping us up to date, and
they're not hearing the story. They're outside playing with Dogshot.
Yes.
I just realized what's going to happen. Deadshot, we all know he's dying, right?
It literally says next the death of Deadshot.
Yeah,
yes,
right?
Allegedly.
We're going to get a panel of Ted shooting Deadshot that's going to mimic Ted's death. And now Deadshot's going to be that rallying cry. Tom Taylor.
Is Deadshot about to become a legacy character?
I believe so.
Oh yeah, the kid's going to become.
She's good. She's Kate Bishop good with the Narrow. So.
Yeah.
What's a less lethal sounding version of Deadshot that we could call her? Long Shot? I don't know.
I almost said Bullseye, And then I realized that was a bad guy.
Can't use that. Can't use that.
Daredevil. You know that.
I
don't know.
There you go.
Deadeye. Trick Shot.
Trick Shot's not
Well,
bad.
Trick Shot's also Clint's brother, so
Okay,
he can't have
sure.
that one.
What was the name she took last issue? 'Cause she had a name, didn't she?
Oh, she did. Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but she did have one.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, it was. I remember it being not bad actually.
Yeah, I remember thinking it and
I'm
going,
sure-
"Oh, it wasn't bad."
I'm sure it'll come up.
Mhm.
If she does indeed don the costume and decides to go into this seriously, joins up with Teen Titans, whatever it may be. All right, it's a very good issue. We ended up debating
Yes.
the Ted card stuff, but it is a very good issue of the origin that makes me really solidify who these two characters are, makes me like them, and possibly is going to mourn their death when they inevitably die.
For the record,
Mhm.
live shot.
There you go, live shot. That's all right.
Yeah, that'll do.
All right, Matt, what are you giving Suicide Squad 8?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
Car?
I'm gonna give it a 9.
Ooh, look at you.
Positive on this one.
Makes a change.
Shut up.
I'm going to give it the 8.5 as well. The match Matt. So, there you
I
go.
don't like Pete matching me this much.
Matt, we're soulmates this week. Let's just accept it.
Don't you say? Don't you dare.
Well, it's the time we've all been waiting for. Action Comics 1024. Brian Michael Bendis writing with John Romita Jr. on the art. And there's a little asterisk here we have to mention, because obviously it's normally me and Matt that talk about this. Every month at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, a patron at a higher tier, $30 tier specifically, can make either myself or Connor read a book. And we had a new one this month, and when I said, hey, what do you want Connor to read? You've picked the Connor's Corner tier. They said, well, this month, Connor's reading Action Comics too. So, Connor's jumping in here mid-arc into the world of John Romita Jr. art. So this is going to be exciting. So earlier on, I was indicating that there was like a movie reference that I wanted to make, and I'll point out specifically when we get to the page that it struck me. There's obviously it's bad art throughout because it's terrible. But there's a panel in this book where somehow, instead of it looking like Superman's head is just on his shoulder, or shoulders, you know what I mean, right? It actually somehow looks like he's done like a full Exorcist 360, and his head. So instead of looking like I think he's maybe looking at his left, right? But instead of looking at his left, it looks like his head's went all the way around the right to then land looking left. And I don't know how you achieve that just with a straight-on view in a comic book, but somehow John Romita Jr. has accomplished that feat. I'll point it out when we get to it.
Joe, I was just skimming through to see if I could see it.
Yeah.
I think he's actually looking to his right.
Well, maybe the other way around. I couldn't remember which way around it was.
But I think I know. I think I found it.
Yes.
Because if it's not that, then did it happen twice?
the fact that from my description you could recognize it.
Oh, pretty easily. Yeah.
It's saying something. So
it's not that far in.
Yeah, so we have Mr. Whisper, whatever he's called, who's like monitoring Superman and Co. For Leon. So I actually posted on Twitter about some of the art here, particularly Fire Chief Melody Moore, who looks nothing like she ever has before. She has spiky hair for some reason in this issue.
Do you know what she looks like? Because again, bear in mind, never read this character before.
Yes.
Don't know who she is. I assume this is what she looked like. She looks like something out of like the Sandman books from the 90s.
That's what I said on Twitter. I said Sandman reject looking haircut was my tweet.
One, I did not see your tweet. Just want to make that clear.
Sure.
I had no idea.
So this
but it is, and it was fine in those books because that was of the time, and it suited the tone.
So this up to this point, this character has had shoulder length flowing red hair.
Yes.
Almost Lana Lang-esque. All right.
Right, okay.
When I tweeted this, someone responded with saying, "Wait, you say it's meant to be this character?" and posted some images from previous, issues.
So I'm gonna let you explain what goes on with Melody before I go off on my rant.
Okay.
So.
What, the whole thing with Melody?
Yeah, because I'm very upset.
Well, yes. This is this is my. You saw the old images.
I've just seen the images. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So I actually, if it wasn't for the fire hat, the fireman's hat that she's putting on the shelf, I would never have known this was her. From that first panel. So, yeah. So this is essentially her final issue, because the big shock thing here is that Red Cloud, in order to provoke Superman and co, kills her. And we get this big dramatic scene later on where Superman hears the police radios or sirens or whatever in the distance, and he flies off and the others follow him, and he sees, we don't get to see it, and I think it's effective in not showing it, as a choice. Again, the art's all terrible, but the choice to not show the body I think is a good one. And I'm like, her last appearance, she was unrecognizable in this horrible art.
I'd like to say I get where you're coming from, that it was the right choice to not show the body. However, I didn't realize she was dying in that first scene. I didn't realize she was being killed. I was like, it wasn't until later that and not knowing who the characters were, I had to really put it together. I was like, oh, that was that character that died.
So Red Cloud has been used as Leon's muscle, right? At any time she needs someone wiped out, that's who she goes to, right?
Contextually for you guys, seeing the red smoke was enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Because for me,
I didn't know she was for sure dead, but yeah, it definitely ends in a cliffhanger if she's in danger, And I
was like, oh, they're taking her to use as leverage. She's running for mayor, right? Yeah. And Leon's gonna offer her a deal. You're gonna work for me. This is, or but Pete nailed it. My biggest issue with that is, Bendis created this character, right? She was someone that really looked up to Superman and what he stood for, and that gets so inspired that she's gonna run for mayor. So for Leon to make one of her big moves by taking her out, narratively that's great. But you're gonna have the last time she's on screen, on panel, look like this?
It's trash. I was laughing while you were talking. I don't know because of anything you said, because I went to the next page and it's when the Super Family are arriving in the Daily Planet, and it's John's head, his forehead.
You mean
I don't know which crappy B-movie villain he's reminding me of here. I'm getting like a Matt Dillon kind of esque.
I would like to talk about a couple of things on this page.
Yes.
This top half of the panel. John's pose along with his forehead. What is that? And also Superman's head kind of tucked down into his shoulder, into his chest. Like what's going on there?
I don't know.
Why is Brainy deciding, no, I'm coming in upside down, screw the rest of you?
Even Brainiac's like the way his knees are bent are kind of weird.
It's like he's about to springboard off the ceiling.
Yes.
Like he's like a swimming start.
Yeah. The FBI are raiding the Daily Planet. Chase is pissed at Lois because of the whole Leon connection, and Perry's freaking out because they have no paper to publish, and blah blah blah. There's some jokes here with Brainiac hugging the Daily Planet ball, and
those are good. Like those, him saying, "Look at the keyboard." Like the story here, I have little issues.
The story's good. The story, I mean, obviously, Cara wouldn't really get the context.
I have no idea what's going on with any of
it. It isn't like Bendis, obviously, but like. The actual story beats are solid, and I think the actual death is well done from a writing perspective. The art kills all of it.
It's very upsetting.
Because
then you're gonna bring Kara into this in that first
up until the moment where Superman flies off, it was kind of like just a whatever issue where things are going forward like they have been, and then this beat where he just flies off without talking to anyone. Sees the body and tells other people not to look. In fact, it's when the others arrive at the body, the page where he looks like he's done a full Exorcist twist to look down the one side.
You know what I think part of it is, because I was trying to figure it out. I think it's the way the cape comes round over one shoulder, so it's like over the front of him, but not on the other side. It makes it look like that should be the back, so that's why he's turning that way, but he's not, and that's what makes the neck look so wrong. And then you've got like lines on the back of the neck to show the turning, but it looks like, because of the cape, it makes it look like it's going in the wrong direction.
It's terrible still.
No,
I'm not excusing it. I'm just trying to deconstruct what's actually causing that horrible effect.
Even the next page, the way he's got his chest up in the air, because he flies up to the sky so he can basically scream. Yeah, and that's when Kara shows up. And do you know what? I'm so happy Supergirl's involved with the rest of the family again. Of course, again, the art just ruins a lot of it. But
she looks like Gollum.
Can I now that she's here, I want to bring up one of my Bendis complaints, Bendis specific complaints. You can go way back to when we first learned that Bendis was coming to DC, and one of my biggest complaints that I have with Bendis, that I said on record, is all his characters sound the same. In this issue, 3 different characters say "Great Scott," and I don't feel like any of them really should be saying that. One at a push. You got Lois, Clark, and Kara all saying that. Clark is the only one at a push I can see saying that. Lois and Kara, absolutely not. And why are they all saying it in the same issue? Kara is only like a page after Clark says it.
I could buy it from Lois and Clark, being that it's Lois and Clark. But yeah, why is Kara saying that? That bugged me too.
I can get Clark feels like okay, I can see him maybe saying it. Lois, if you tell me that she's picked it up from him, maybe. But it's the way it's the first thing she says when she walks into the planet and the FBI are all there. And she goes, "Great Scott, like, what are you all doing here?" I'm like, what?
It's not the first time she said
that. Threw me off already.
It's not the first time she said it in this run, so it didn't throw me off because it's at least been established that it's something she says.
Okay, fair enough. It felt out of character to me coming in, like her just kind of throwing out there. And I said, maybe I could buy. She's picked it up from Clark, who I can buy saying it. But then Kara as well. All three of them in the same issue. Like, what?
I think the way Kara acts is very in character, though. You know, the whole holding Superman, all that. That's all fine. We do the round of wait, who's this Connor idiot? Sequence here, where they try to explain. She's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot John was all big now."
Also, her saying, "Oh, are we related?" She's like, "I'm the clone of Superman and Lex Luthor." And she goes, "So I'm going to say no." I'm like, "Well, no, that means you are."
Yeah, I would say kind of related to.
That kind of makes her. An aunt, I guess.
Again, I like the story beats here of this murder. Essentially says makes Superman like he's so driven to find Leon and find the invisible mafia that he starts to look for where he can't see to try and find where they're hiding, and all the super family then start helping him, and we get these. And this was always so frustrating when the art's not good. In fact, the best panel of the whole book is the page where Mr. Whisper says they found him, and you get the 2-page spread. And the reason why it's the best panel is because most of it's just all in darkness, and you just see the red eyes.
That's what I was going to say. The proportions are still off because it's JRJR, but because there's not a lot of line work, it's fine. So, yeah.
But the actual story beats here, I love they're looking for them. Leon's being cocky and thinking she'll never be found. The scientist from Young Justice is there and complaining that she wants, protection or whatever. And no, I mean the story beat moments are good. That is the frustrating thing about this. In fact, Kara finally gets to see what I was talking about, how Red Cloud's supposed to be clouds, and in the past she has been. Here she looks like Red Groot because everything's all sharp because of the way the imaging her.
Just a question on that page you like with the silhouette. Can any of you answer to me why?
Comparatively.
Okay, comparatively. Relatively speaking, in the context of this book, I'll be fair.
Yes.
Can any of you explain to me why Superman's belt doesn't glow like everyone else's? Like everyone has their yellow belts glowing, or at least the symbol. Kara has the whole, the yellow. John and Connor both have, the symbol or the belt. Superman's just nothing. I don't understand why. Because he has the yellow belt, right?
Yeah. You're spot on there, Connor.
It felt noticeably absent because there was nothing over his whole body until his feet, and then I'm like, I really felt the empty space more.
Again, there's pages of this issue where characters' heads don't look like they belong in the body. This missing from this silhouette page is really the least of my concerns, but I can see what you're saying.
Look, I'm not saying there aren't other problems. There are lots of other problems.
There's a long list, and this is like number 27 on it, so...
Yeah, that doesn't excuse this, though. I want to call it out. Look, if people are paying good money for me to read this shit, I'm going to pull out all the critiques I can.
You're not wrong.
I mean, yeah, that's what it is.
I get what you were saying about the mist, whose name I've forgotten already.
Red Cloud.
Red Cloud. Thank you. I wouldn't have guessed that was supposed to be fog, mist, or whatever it is. Gas.
And other artists did draw it correctly. Like other artists did draw it, and it was clearly a vapor.
Is it the whole body is supposed to be vaporous, or just the tendrils coming off?
Full body.
Okay. This is just a wrong then, I guess.
Yeah.
That didn't look that bad to me because I haven't got the frame of reference of what the design was supposed to be. But okay, fair enough.
I'm gonna laugh when they are in the Daily Planet globe, and that's where they're hiding.
That'd be pretty funny, actually.
That would be terrible.
dear. No, I mean, there's so much wrong with a lot of this. That even the second page, where it's the 2-page layout of like the Whisperer, Mr. Whisper, talking to Leon about watching the supers, and even Superman's face in that bottom sort of panel, the wide panel at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's just like, what's going on there? Why is there all these lines, and not all over his face, just kind of in the corner of his jaw, going to kind of the cheek?
Yeah. I would say on these first couple of pages, I feel like I personally should have been very grateful for these because they felt very recappy.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I'm just jumping in here. But I struggled to get through it without zoning out multiple times because there was just so much dialogue, like that all was just going on and on and on and on.
Even for me, there was a lot of dialogue in this issue. But I don't know if I was just thinking about it more because I was like, oh, Connor's gonna have to read this.
I mean, I didn't have a problem with the dialogue after the first few pages. It was just the recappy stuff at the start.
I know, that was bad. That page where Lois gets into the planet and they're all there is pretty terrible for it. Like it's almost like Bendis knew there was a couple of silent pages coming up and was like, I need to cram more in. It's pretty overwhelming, especially in that first half of the book.
Oh well, I do like what the story does, though. I mean, I just want to make that clear because this was always going to be a mostly negative discussion because of the art, but I do actually like the story beats and the dramatic moments that it has. But unfortunately, the art does legitimately distract from them every single step of the way. Matt, what are you giving Action Comics?
I'm going to give this the art's real bad. I'm going to give this a 4.5.
That's rough from Matt. Connor?
It's a 2 from me. This is legitimately worse than some issues of Red Hood that I've read because at least those have art that makes it quick to get through and just I can sit and watch a perfectly pretty looking fight scene for 6 pages.
Yeah, this is so tough because I kind of like what the story's doing, but the art does just tank it so much. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a 4. This hurts so much because like I like what the story's doing and have done for most of the Action Comics run, and this art is just.
It says a lot that I can come in and give this book a 2, and it's not like obscenely low compared to your scores.
Honestly, like I'm someone, as long as the art is like serviceable, it won't detract from the story. If I like the story, if the writing's good, obviously great art will enhance it. But as long as it's serviceable art, this is like one of the few examples I can think of where the art is actively just tanking it. Like not just like putting it down a point or two. Like it's tanking it completely.
Yeah.
But it's that bad. It is that bad. So it's Action Comics. I can rest my voice. Justice League Dark, issue 25, Ram V and Amancay Nahuelpan, if I'm saying that remotely correctly, probably not. Take it away.
So Swamp Thing's overpowered as hell now. Huh?
That's one way I put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have Diana and Zatanna. That's fun to say. In the Upside Down, the other realm. And Zatara appears to them. That was at the end of the last issue, right?
Yes, it was. We actually have a little flashback at the start of this of Zatanna learning that magic has a cost. Basically, a rabbit's died or whatever, and she tries to bring it back to life with her magic. And Zatara comes out and sees what she's done. And is like, oh god, and he's like, whatever was going to happen to her, I'll take it instead. Uses magic to take away the price to him instead, and then immediately starts like bleeding from the mouth, like he's been punched in the jaw or something. Is what it looks like magically. And this is her understanding. No, you can't just bring shit back to life. There's a cost, and this was for something as small as a rabbit. So don't try this again. Very important start, I think. And
it's something that I read because I don't read magic stories that often, but it seems to be the well you go to that magic has a price. And that's always one of the rules that they add in because there was all of Jason Aaron's Doctor Strange run was magic has a price, and then he kept putting off that price for as long, and it just caused every issue that he was having. So it makes sense that that's what we're getting here is that it's almost as if Zatara paid the ultimate price to keep the other kind
Could
bound.
be, yeah. Also,
You know?
just before we get into the rest of the issue proper, 'cause I don't know if you follow Ramby on Twitter. He kind of mentioned this week, people were asking him questions about upcoming stories and such. And because we were speculating when the solicits came out if this was actually ending or not, it wasn't clear. I'm leaning towards not now based on what he said, because he talked about how at the minute he's just wrapping up the stories that Tynan is, established,
Right.
and he'll be moving on to his own stuff after. Now, whether or not that means his own stuff in another book is technically, I guess there's enough wiggle room there where you could get away with that. But it felt like to me that no, he's got stuff planned to start after he's dealt with the other kind, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. So we get them, and the Upside Down Man's basically saying it was futile for you to come here because, I am the shadow of Hecate, and being that, like, I'm basically undefeated. Like, once I'm unleashed, there's no putting me back in. And then we cut over to what Man-Bat and Swamp Thing have been up to, and that Man-Bat has been doing, like, tests on Swamp Thing, and that because of this, he is basically a swamp, which I do like that. I don't know if this is Tynan or Ram V, but as he's more than just the green in the swamp, right? Because think about what a swamp is. That's all these organisms living in harmony. And that's what Swamp Thing is now, right? He has little pieces of the red and the black and all these other parliaments. And he's more than just Alec Holland ever was. And just as an agent of the green.
And the idea that wherever the green is, he can be, and that he can go beyond. So okay, he starts on this world, and he's tethered this world to the green in a specific spot, and then he can get into the green from there. But from there, he can go beyond into other realities. Anywhere there is life, essentially, he can get.
Right. He can travel via the multiverse now, multiverses, through the green, that's something that's new.
It's cool as shit. And there's a page of him kind of falling
tying all the
through
worlds,
space and universes, with like all these vines going through it, and like melting planets essentially. And it's a gorgeous page.
And when you think about it, this book's always been about magic and horror, right? And this one, it's almost kind of like the wonder of life, right? That this is what he's capable of because he's become more than just the green. And he's almost ascended. And so he barges on Diana and Zatanna and kind of takes care of the Upside Down Man for the moment, which is really shocking.
I love this sequence. Just to rewind a little bit to Zatanna, she's kind of realizing her magic, specifically her backwards magic, is particularly strong in this place because it's the Upside Down, right? So it's all backwards. And she's like, she thinks Zatara has kind of actually been training her for this without realizing. She does some cool stuff. She does a pew pew with a gun fingers, and it's
takes out big
awesome.
chunks of Upside Down Man.
Yeah, it's awesome. But just as Swamp Thing's coming in, because obviously the last time he's traveling through realities, these vines going through the multiverse, as we see. The page literally shatters. He breaks the world to get in. It completely shatters these panels. It's really effective because it cuts like characters into pieces and kind of forms them at different angles. They're not just shattered in bits. They're some are turned inwards, some are turned out, and it still tries to present the image neat. It doesn't split up into separate bits. It presents the image still as if it was one panel and then fractured afterwards, and it's really interesting effect. And that's when something comes in and just grabs him, and while it's still shattered. And then you get the final bit. Okay, Swamp Thing's here. The universe kind of resets, but molds around him, and you just have his hands coming in with the big red eyes. And oh my god, what a page that you turn onto this giant Swamp Thing grabbing him. It's got a big cocoon sound effect as his hands come together. Fantastic moment.
Yeah, I'm going back over these. No, it's really cool. But he's still super powerful because he's in the other realm, and so Swamp Thing's even like, yeah, as powerful as I am, I only bought it some time. And
this is time
for
for
what?
the rest of us to find our own answers. And when he was talking to Mamba earlier, he hinted that Bobo's on a mission. He'll get back to us soon, and he'll find what he's looking for. And he says this not like he sent Bobo on the mission, just this cryptically, like he knows shit now. And that's where we end. We end with Bobo, coming to a pub in London, and he should be there, but John Constantine, in a precarious situation, shall we say? He's hanging upside down in midair with a bunch of tarot cards.
Right, and other stuff in the bar stools are hovering in his mouth, is silenced with the Fool card, which is a nice touch.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Yeah, and Rampy's taken over quite nicely, even if these are Tynan's threads. He's kind of doing his own thing with them. I feel like he really likes the whole idea of the Parliaments working together with Swamp Thing and just how powerful Swamp Thing is.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that while the first few issues still had Tynan listed as the plots or vaguely co-writer, whatever credit he was specifically given, that's gone now. This is maybe it's one with ideas and things that Tynan's up threads. This is not what Tynan would have done. This is not the story he was building to necessarily. This isn't the ending he had planned. Ramby isn't working off Tynan's ideas. He's just taking the threads that Tynan left and established and finishing them in a way that he thinks makes sense. And to that point, he's doing a great job of it because it feels really natural. It doesn't feel like this has come out of nowhere. It feels like really satisfying conclusion. I mean, we're not quite there yet, but so far. And I think that there's something to that, to being able to pick up those threads, build on it, and still feel like it's his work, while being a conclusion to what came before, even if it's a different conclusion, I'm sure, to what Tynan would have done.
Yeah, and but it's all well. He's juggling all the characters really well. It's good to see Man back being his, mad scientist self and being all excited over these discoveries, because I feel like that character was kind of missing for a little bit when all the chaos was going on.
Yeah, it feels like Ramby maybe didn't quite have an idea of what to do with him straight away. But he's getting there now. I'm intrigued. It's actually left me quite excited to see what he does on Catwoman, because that's starting. I think he has a story in 25. I don't know if he takes over with 26 in proper, or if it's slightly after. But I'm actually quite excited for that now, based off of reading what he's done with Justice League Dark. Because again, this is a sleeper hit of a book. Kind of like this and Hawkman have been those two pillars of. Conveniently, the two books that Pete hasn't been reading, that me and Matt have been loving, every month in, month out, these have been consistently like top tier books.
Yeah, and it's not just that; they're the books that I look forward to, like on those weeks. Like this is the one I was really
there's something like
jonesing for.
Like I'm sure I'm always going to enjoy a Batman book, like whatever Batman book it is at the time. I'm sure it'll be there. Wonder Woman, whatever. Yeah, okay, sure. I'm not excited to read that because it's those tentpole characters. There's always going to be a book for me to read even if it's not the brand new one. There's untapped amount of stories that they have that I haven't read yet, that I know are good quality that I can get to. But stuff like this, where I get excited for these side things because I don't have tons of these characters. This particular permutation in this case, because obviously these characters all have various runs of their own for the most part. But this specific permutation, this team, I don't have this or much of it. So it's exciting to know that I've got this and it's going to be good quality.
Well, and the fact that you get Diana and Zatanna playing off of each other really well. Like they are
a great pairing that has not been explored that much. I feel like out of the Trinity, Zatanna is often paired with Batman, or you do occasionally see him paired with Superman because of his lack of magic skills.
Right.
But I think those two have this rapport throughout comics history at this point. Whereas Diana, I can't think of a lot of examples of the two of them.
No. Well, I also like too that Clark knew Zatara somehow, and there's that respect there, so he feels like he can reach out to Zatanna.
And I do like this. I think it's from Tynan's detective stuff. The Bruce training with Zatara for a bit to understand magic, so he knows how to fight it.
Right.
So they got this history as well. I like all that stuff, and I like that now we've got something with Diana as well, to really round her into the Trinity. Yeah,
it makes sense. So so what you rating it?
I'm giving this a 9. This is a great issue. Some fantastic art that kind of does what I was saying I was missing on Wonder Woman almost, where the art kind of just felt routine and it was lacking some of the flair. This has flair in abundance with what it does with its layouts.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 8.5. Still really good, but how can I follow up Connor describing all the art like that? I can't.
I mean, I don't know. Just don't slip in a banana peel and fall on your face. I mean, you probably did an alright job.
Okay, well, as long as you believe in me.
I do, Matt. I do believe in you.
Hey, thanks.
I believe in you almost as much as I don't believe in Connor.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So, next up, Batman Superman issue 11. Joshua Williamson writing with Clayton Henry on the art. Rounding out this, was this been 3 parts in total? This
I think so, yeah.
Ultra Humanite story, which is fun little 3-part. Which I think we've all enjoyed. At least we enjoyed the first 2. We'll find out if we all enjoyed this one.
It's safe to say at this point, I think this is a solid B-tier book. And by that, I don't mean that the stories are bad.
No,
I
not
mean,
at all.
It's telling these stories that aren't super important. They're just kind of fun romps. And I've got room for that when they're this good, when they're enjoyable.
I mean, I'll say what I said last time. This is a better done example as to what Justice League's been kind of trying to do since Snyder's run ended.
Yeah.
I think it's been doing a better job of it.
I think Justice League maybe had some individual issues, which I liked more than maybe any issue of this. But as a whole, in terms of, the 2 to 4 issue story arcs that this has been doing since it got over its murky early days, this has been very consistent.
It's just because that first arc was a tie-in to whatever was going on at the
time. I'm not holding that against it.
Yeah, so, Batman's being controlled by Ultra Humanite. He's got that sort of atomic skull kind of effect on his cowl.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Superman shows up and demands that he fix it. He's like, nah, Batman's going to blow. Superman seemingly has to kill Batman so he won't blow up with his heat vision. So,
I like that.
Even though Matt, any other conversation, Superman shouldn't kill, except when it's Batman. No, I like that. That was good stuff.
What's really bad is the only thing I could think of is, I don't know if you've seen the trailer for season 2 of The Boys yet. There's a new character they're introducing, this female superhero / villain, who and one of the lines she says to Homelander is "laser my effing tits," and that's all I could think too much, just blasting into Batman's chest.
Yeah. So I liked a lot of the stuff with Ultra Humanite here, in that we thought it was nanotechnology at play and whatnot, and then in a nice fun turn, it turns out Ultra Humanite's brain, from so many times of being downloaded and put into different things, is just kind of a mess, and it's hooked up into this network. And it was such a fun looking sci-fi image.
I like
and
the
also the Purple Tent, because of the Atomic Skull's fire, apparently almost has, because of the radiation, has like a healing property where it would phase off really fun later. And I do like this. This felt like, as someone that was growing on the Atomic Skull and Superwoman, for what they were doing, making him part of the Metropolis Science Police and whatnot. I like that this seemed that Williamson's like, no, I'm going to honor Atomic Skull, and I'm going to have Bruce and Clark talk about him, and he was trying to become a good man, and Ultra Humanite got in the way of that and ruined everything. So I love all the stuff that he put into that here.
Joe, honestly, my only thought I was having during this otherwise having fun, I liked that both of them were saying he went out a better person and he went out a hero, all that. But my only thought I was having on this is like, this is kind of a rompy B-level book, and it's a shame that a character seems to have went out in a story like this, and now he's just gone. And so when I got to the ending, and it was like, no, he's fine. He literally gets out of his grave.
Well, once they establish that this fire has the healing kind of radiation property to it, I was like, oh, all right, he's fine now. It's been enough time. And then zombie style gets up out of the grave, and like Connor said, I need a drink, and he goes off. So hopefully there is hope for him becoming Go ahead.
There's a couple of bits that reference stuff that's happened in Teen Titans, and it's about a mysterious jailer, and Batman's like, we need to hunt this down.
Which is Robin. It says,
that's okay. Was that the implication that Damian was the jailer?
Yeah, well, actually,
seemed in that picked in that panel.
I have some insight on this. David, one of our loyal patrons, told me how Teen Titans ended this week.
Yes, David, the bastard that he is.
Yes, maybe it's got to be redressed. So that's basically said. Batman says, "Oh, we have to put a stop to this," and it says you'll see Teen Titans Annual 2, I think it is, for the story, which I think was the one that was out this week. Apparently, the end of the issue of Teen Titans this week, Damian and Batman get into a fight, and Damian rips off his R, basically disowning the Robin mantle.
Robin no more.
Yeah, Robin no more. Yes. So that
such a
never seen that happen before.
So dramatic.
So
hey, he's a teenager now, Matt. We got to go through this.
For context sake, in other books that might come up that he's not like full on Robin anymore. So we'll see.
I'm glad because there was the clear implication that Robin was the jailer in that first panel. And I went, oh, okay, cool. Well, and then it got to the end that this was a mystery, and they were like, oh, we're going to hunt this person down.
To be fair, though,
like, is it? Or was that a misleading panel?
To be fair, though, I'm pretty sure in the one issue we read of that run before we decided we didn't want to anymore, I think they even set up in that first issue that they were going to start jailing villains.
I don't think I read that issue. I think I left that to you, Max. I didn't want to put myself through it.
But I think they actually set up. I think that entire run has been about the idea of them just jailing the criminals they don't think should be out there, without the justice system. So
fair enough. So it's in keeping with that run, at least. Whether or not that run is to our taste is a different matter, but at least it's consistent.
Yeah. So it seems like a fairly nice little bit of continuity.
Yeah.
And that says Ultra Humanite's body gets destroyed, but his brain's still okay, and they've got it.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we've got we can do more Atomic Skull stuff soon.
Oh yeah, I'm glad about that too.
I do quite like Atomic Skull. All the stuff that we've done with him in the past in agencies and such has been fun.
You're a DC shell when you with a completely straight face say Atomic Skull is better than Ghost Rider.
It's true, isn't it?
I'm not gonna go that far.
I genuinely believe that, and I'm not saying that Ghost Rider's bad or that there aren't good Ghost Rider stories. Just that I haven't read them. The best Ghost Rider story I've read was the Punisher Ghost Rider killing Thanos mini-series from Donny Cates. That was great.
All right. Well, it says next the Brainiac files return with a old, computer, like mock-up of Brainiac's image. So, again, I'm getting a sense of fun from this. Where they're going to play into the computer angle of it.
I'd expect fun things. I think we should obviously mention the art. Obviously, it's Clayton Henry again. We've had him for the past couple of issues. And his pacing's really solid. I think his facial expression is really good. There's a
2-page layout in the middle. It's when Superman sort of flies into Ultra Humanite and sort of does a punch to the chest. I thought that looked quite good.
Yeah, I actually really like the bottom half of that where Ultra Humanite just kind of goes across panels and he's punching Superman out of the panel essentially, with the effect that it has. That's really strong. Of course, there's still the occasional long forehead, indicative of Henry's work at this point. I think that's just a stylistic thing.
Yeah, that's the worst thing about his art, I think. But
but it fills in the B style, almost like it's a B movie. It's a little bit larger than life.
Expressive, cartoony. Like I say, a little over exaggerated in a good way.
For some reason, I thought Matt was going to say it fills in the rest of the panels. Too much open space, so he makes the foreheads bigger so that the heads will take up more space.
You say that, but there has been a lot of discourse on Twitter this week about backgrounds in comics. So it wouldn't have been off topic.
So there you go. We give it a Matt.
I'm going to give this one an 8.
Will you give it, Connor?
It's a 7.5 for me, but I did really enjoy it.
Solid 7 for me, I think. Yeah, I had fun. That was good. Like Atomic Skull. Yeah, looking forward to more. So that's Batman, Superman, issue 11. Legion of Superheroes, issue 8, Brian Michael Bendis, and 20 artists who I'm not going to name.
And one I didn't have to read.
Yes. Confession time, I didn't read this either. So.
Son of a bitch. You a-hole.
It finally happened. It broke it.
Look, I had 9 books including this. 2 of them are really long because 3 Jokers and The Question were both, biggies. And I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I got 3 hours sleep. I was up watching the original Evil Dead on stream because I had to do that for streams this weekend. And I ended up waking up after not a lot of sleep and I had all my books to read. And I was getting towards the last few and I was like, you know what? this stupid one artist per page Legion issue that I've not been looking forward to.
So
I think I can skip it for now.
Sure. So I'll just give the quick hits version of it. This isn't what I thought it was going to be with the, where they said they were going to give little origins of the Legion characters with the artist.
Mhm.
It is a story, and this is the trial of the Legion of Superheroes, and it's got the president of the United Planets and talking with Chameleon Boy, and it intercuts with what the main Legion is doing, and over the course, each page is a different person. And mixed into there are origin-esque stories of, them going into like who some of these characters are and showing how and why they would be on the Legion of Superheroes. Which was cool because, you hear that it's almost going to be this one artist per page origins, that it was going to be very, we're going to take a break from what's going on in the story, and that didn't happen at all, which is a nice surprise. But yeah, you get a lot of good art, some, for me, hit or miss. Like, it's not all the best.
It's 20 different artists. You're not going to like all of them, I'm assuming.
No. I mean, you got Lemire, who, Lemire's art's hit or miss, and I don't really think it fits some of the Legion characters because it makes
I think Lemire's art fits Lemire's writing phenomenally well. Like, if he's doing his own indie stories, his art is probably the best for those stories that you could possibly get. It doesn't necessarily fit superhero work.
No. So the first couple, you have the origin of Element Lad, and he's auditioning and he shows off his powers and explains, the Horaz, who are these space pirates that were stealing the Trident, took advantage of his people because they can transmute elements, and so he wants to fight against that happening to other people. He wants to wave the Legion standard that lets people know that you're not going to be taken advantage of. And then you get Dustin Nguyen doing a thing with Dream Girl, and she appears and she's this sparkling, sparkling golden figure that wanders in and says, tells them about the precognition, that I can see just enough to know that like this is going to be chaos, but we're going to do ultimate good. And they're all kind of dumbfounded with her. And they call her Dream Girl, and she's like, girl, sure. So almost like her people don't really have that thought that, Dream Girl's just who she is, and you have, who is this? This was Princess Projecta, who can give out, her whole power set is making illusions. So they go to recruit her, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm a princess on my planet. I want to pay for the Legion of Superheroes. And the main core three are like, wait, no, we have a charter. We don't need to be paying. We want you on the team because of your power. And we're not going to respond to your authority. We have to be a part of the team, and it shows what she can do. So the room that they're in that looks like this big palatial thing is just almost like a prison cell, almost. So it adds layers. But then you get into, the Oming, but that was the Catwoman.
Joel Jones.
Joel Jones, thank you. And then this is where you start to get into the Chameleon Boy stuff, which is him going back and forth with his mom about what's been going on, and it's Michael Avon Oming. You get a really cool Liam Sharp page about Rimbor and the Ultra Boy, and his whole thing with his dad and whatnot. But yeah, so the overall story after this point now is they took down the Crab General, and that in doing so has created an basically interplanetary incident, and the president's having none of it. And so you get to see some stuff where like the Rimborians come and they try to they get Wildfire, who's the guy that's a suit, like he's an energy being. They pull him out of a suit to contain him into like a trap, and they go take him away, and it's chaos. Mon-El tries to fight the Crab General, ends up getting beat up, and anytime John shows up around him to help him, he like distances himself come to find out that he's a great grandson of John, and that he shouldn't be interacting with him because he doesn't want this to change the past. So he's just trying to stay away. You get a really good page of Saturn Girl by David Mack in his watercolor style of her reaching out to the rest of the Legion of their plan, and stuff. But yeah, so again, it's a little bit frustrating to jump from one page artist because you get used to a thing.
Just as you get used to it, changes.
Yeah, but you get a lot of fun character beats, like with Colossal Boy, where they pull from the Wade Legion that he is naturally that big and his powers just shrink. So his name shouldn't be Colossal Boy; it should be like, you know, Shrinky Dink or Microblad, not Colossal Boy. And they're like, you know, just not now. You can have this when we're not in a fight. But yeah.
The big question is, are you looking forward to a whole other issue doing this?
I mean, as long as the story keeps going that way. So it ends with Pharaoh Lad, who, when he becomes his iron form, he loses vitals. And so they think they have lost a member, but he's just gone into his mode. And he goes to knock out the Krav General and ends up causing this massive explosion that ends up, you know, causing chaos. And of course, the Legion doesn't like that, so now they're going to be on trial. Or the Legion, the United Planets don't like that, so the Legion goes on trial. So that's now with the next issue. So I'm pretty sure the next issue is going to be more what I thought, where we'll get insight on these certain characters, but it'll still have the overarching. Like, it's a bold thing to do. And I mean, when you hear this lineup of artists, you know, you have Shaner on the first page, which is John.
Yeah, I know. Shayna started it, and Gerard's is doing the final page of the next issue because they were making the point. It's the Strange Adventures team starting and ending this.
Yeah, but then you got Lemire, you got Nguyen, you got Jones, you got Oming, you have Sharp, Sanford Green's in there, Coley Hamner, Yannick Paquette, David Mack, Dan Jurgens, Bilkis Evely, Fabio Moon, Ryan Sook, Alex Maleev, which Maleev was page 20. What the hell? I didn't even notice that one until right now. Which makes sense. Let me see. Yep. So, you know.
It's an all-star line. There's no getting around
that. Yeah. And there's some teases for stuff going on forward. But, you know, not that I want to say it's a mess, but it's a bold thing to try, especially with the Legion, because you're trying to establish some of these characters, and when you keep moving, you know, it's hard to get your attention. So, but Pete should have definitely read it. It wasn't a Bendis read.
That's kind of my last question is Pete, do you plan on getting this read before the next issue, or are you just kind of done with the book now?
It kind of depends. Basically, it was the victim this week of, like, I had a lot to read, and it was kind of the bottom of the pile, arguably. I mean, technically, Action Comics should be the one that's at the bottom, but because it's tied into things and it's been a long-going story, it doesn't get that slot. So if it keeps being on week 4s, where week 4s are really busy, then I don't know, maybe it could be the but if it ends up in a quieter week next month, then I'll be like, yeah, sure, I'll read the other one and catch up.
Fair enough.
But so we'll see. But so I'm excited to see who the other art's from in the next one, because again, this was an all-star, you know, thing. But some of the art, so like you have Paquette, and he just kind of does an altercation between John and Mon-El. And you're kind of like, well, wait, Paquette's really good at these layouts with weird stuff on there, and this is what you had him draw? Like,
kind of feels underutilized.
Yeah, but then you have Oming, and just his style fits in with Chameleon Boy because it's so, you know, so curvy, and you see him shifting into different forms when he's talking to his mom and whatnot. So, yeah, again, I don't want to call it a mess, 'cause it's really not, but there are some elements to it that you're kind of like, why? So rating it, I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Okay, there we go. The question: the deaths of Vic Sage, issue 4, Jeff Lemire and Dennis Cowan on the art. So, yeah, probably the biggest issue facing this book is just the time between issues. Now, obviously, it wasn't its fault that we had the shutdown in the middle of the run and all that jazz. Obviously, a lot of it you get from context anyway, I think, in this final issue. But there's that. I feel like there was definitely some small things that when I read it again and I actually remember the story beats of all the previous issues, it'll play better.
Yeah, I don't think this one was as bad as the break between 2 and 3, where I struggled a lot more.
Oh, for sure.
I think
yeah.
3 refreshed me enough that I managed with this one all right.
Yeah.
Imagine reading this book, and then the state of the world happens as it does.
I know.
And it would seem that Lemire was looking into a future machine.
Because when was issue 1? Was issue 1 even this year?
No,
I don't think so.
believe so.
But I have to question which parts of this issue were written how recently, because there are some specific lines of dialogue that feel very
sure, but the setup for it, the police murder of the innocent man, that was something that I assume was in issue 1. It was mentioned in issue 1.
Yeah.
It had to have been because it's just there.
I'm just talking some of the imagery that gets here, some of the stuff that he says, that Charlie says, or Victor, whatever version of himself's in Hub City right now. Is very apparent for now. So if this had come out like it was supposed to, and I get what Lemire's saying. Lemire is just saying, of course stuff repeats because we're not fixing the problem. We're fixing the symptoms.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's going to keep happening regardless.
It's kind of
unless we fix ourselves.
Is the bit where he kind of says, I know what you're saying. It's not just one cop. It's not just one mayor.
Right.
There's no point. I'm like, oh God, 2020 shit.
I mean, it's kind of, in many ways, obviously in this modern context, but in many ways it's doing a lot of what the Wonder Woman movie was kind of doing, and then we were hoping it would go further with it, but it kind of copped out by actually having the big villain to fight.
Yeah.
This kind of does the thing where the villain's there to fight, but then afterwards the problem's still there.
It didn't fix it, yeah.
And it makes makes that point very clear at the end, where no, the battle goes ever on, the question doesn't rest, because I mean, he just the last page is him walking into the riot crowd to like help with the fight and saying, I'm the question and there will be answers. The idea that people will answer for the things that have happened.
Yeah.
So
maybe that villain was exacerbating things. Maybe he was physically making things worse, but he wasn't the root cause.
Well, it's how do you fight an abstract concept like evil, right? And that's ultimately what this is, because evil has many faces, while good typically only has one. Or no face, right? Like in this case. And the one thing that stood out to me was that page towards the end where he says he's got the full, question face on, but he's in his typical his suit, right? He's not in the full garb. So he's kind of halfway there. And he says evil has to try, it has to manipulate and has to plan a plot, but good just has to be. And you're like, oh man, okay, there's some hope in this. And then the dude shoots himself, it all hell breaks loose, and you're kind of like, oh man, like maybe that's not.
Oh, it definitely, it definitely gets dark. Oh, just on a point that Matt said there about good having one face or no face, is I think that kind of part of the irony of the question, or part of the intent of the question, at least as I'm reading it from that comment, is that I think evil equally has kind of no face. The idea that, okay, in this case there is a face that you can go to, but it still exists, so it's kind of faceless in the larger context. So the idea that the question is kind of intentionally the good version of that, where no, I am going to be good without a face so that I am just as omnipotent as evil is.
Right. Which seems to go in counter to what he does with Tot, though, because he puts on the question face to show everybody, right, that he's got nothing. Like, this is who I am. So he puts a face on the question, the question has a face.
We're making
like,
We're making movie references today. I'll say it's the end of The Howling, where she turns into a werewolf on national TV. That's what this is, except he's putting on his question mask.
Yeah. And so I like that. I do like that Lemire sets up the hope, right? That, he's defeated evil, yet evil will continue to exist, so it's a never-ending fight. And then he goes out and is like, well, no, Tot was right. It's more than just a bad cop and a bad mayor, and it's society itself. And unless we fix society itself, this stuff's going to keep happening like it has to Charlie from the Old West and the problems of society then to, the gangster era, the 40s era version of him, same kind of deal. And then now, And yeah, man, it's Lemire working at his, when he does superhero stuff like this, I feel it's at his highest.
It's a bit grimier.
Yeah, there's a creepy
I-
flashback where the villain shows up to
Mhm.
Vic as a kid, and
yeah.
basically,
It's like, oh, do you remember me? Or you will.
basically
Mhm.
kind of threatens him very ominously, sort of like.
Well, and he appears in the form of a priest, right?
Yeah.
Or is this a guy in a suit? Yeah, okay.
No, it's a priest. He's got the collar.
Yeah. And so again, I think that's Lemire going on that it can come from anywhere, even people that you're supposed to trust, you know. But yeah, no,
And
it's really good, man.
If you were
the most I've enjoyed the question.
if you were confused that this was a black label, but not only is there F-bombs and stuff, but at one point there's, the villain straight up punches a woman in the face, and it feels quite brutal when it happens. It was like, whoa, okay.
Does, yeah.
So, it does have that sort of dark vibe to it. And there's a lot of, he straight up fights like an army of SWAT at one point. So there's a lot of action in this one compared to the previous issues. I think what really makes this work, and I can see this working as a sort of like special episode of a TV show or even a movie, where you have all this set up in the first, which is why I think this is going to read very well in trade, is you have a lot of this present day set up in issue 1, and then issues 2 and 3, there's almost a sort of vision quest into the past, sort of contextualizing,
showing how it's a cycle.
Yeah. And then he comes back in the final issue, the final part of the story. So the actual story plays out in this sort of bookend. In the middle's kind of its, own sort of character journey.
Individual stories, almost. Yeah.
So you can kind of see how this works as a movie, where he eventually comes back at the end to actually take on the villain. There's not actually a lot of development for the villain in the sense that there's a lot of stuff he's doing in present day. Like, we set up a status quo, and then he just has to be dealt with. Like, it's that simple because that's how the structure allows it. But I liked all this. But like I say, it's really dark, where the guy shoots himself in the head, the brother, after.
Yeah. I really only have 2 critiques of this issue, and only one of them's a proper critique. One of them's a little nitpick that I just hated. No, hated's even a strong word. The main one is, I think this issue I actually felt being a little bit long. I didn't feel it on any of the other issues, because obviously they've all been the same length, this 50-odd pages, whatever it is. This one I felt like it just meandered a little bit much here or there. Just not even like tons, just like every so often I felt scenes going on a page or 2 pages longer than they should have done. Just felt like I wanted to tighten up by a handful of pages here or there.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, maybe, I said there's a lot of fighting. That could have been trimmed down a little bit. Maybe the tote argument of like what you should do was maybe just a little touch long. Yeah, there's a couple of beats like that.
Yeah, and then the other one that's not. This is very much a me complaint, and Pete will hate this. Tip for top. Oh, I hated that. I hated changing it to that. And, no. And I know his name's Top, but
Yeah, no, I get that.
That really just grinded me.
Yeah. I also loved.
What should have happened is that Victor responded, well, in that case, a bit of top for tat then. You should have flipped it. You should have flipped it.
Yeah.
Terrible. No, you're making it worse.
I love Todd also yelling at him. He goes, you were seeing that acid head Richard Dragon again, weren't you? I told you can't go hang out with him. Like a disappointed dad. Like, I love that beat right there.
Yeah, that was kind of good.
Yeah.
But no, this is... I understand why the questions become such a cult character. And, I with all the problems that Rorschach presents, right, in modern society and kind of how he was used in the movie versus the original Watchmen comic and then the TV show, I'm glad to read the original version of that character in the whole black and white shades of gray type mentality. And I feel like Lemire really ran with that.
Yeah, in fact, there's a tribute page at the end to Denny O'Neil, and I think obviously this is one of these things where when he started writing this book, Denny O'Neil hadn't passed away, unless I'm forgetting when that happened.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was the week that we actually read the last issue of this.
There you go. So it's just it's one of those things where that happened while this book was coming out, and he was able to put in this personal statement at the end, talking about how he would never have written a question book if Denny O'Neil hadn't done what he did on the character. So no, really nice. So no, it was a really good issue, and I'm excited to read it again at some point as one big thing. Obviously the big delay in the middle, which wasn't its own fault, obviously. kind of hurt the
'cause
pacing.
I think it was always intended to be every other month. I think there was between issues 1 and 2 an extra month anyway, accidentally, which was an unintentional delay, obviously. And then it had the big problem along with every other comic in the world.
Yeah, so it
between
had
2 and
it
3.
had like what 3 months between 2 and 3, maybe
I
even
think it was longer.
maybe before. So yeah, that did hurt just because it was hard to remember what happened in the previous
But
issues.
you gotta, really not hold it against the book
Nah.
when it does that.
I think as a 200-page trade or graphic novel, you want to call it, this will be a fine thing to give to someone.
That's something worth noting is a lot of other companies are experimenting with straight to graphic novels now, and obviously DC are kind of dipping it here or there. They got the Stag Shot one coming up, we know that. I could see stories like this, some of these black label stories, going straight to graphic novel in the future, and seeing how they seeing how they sell that way, because I think this feels like the perfect sort of one to just hand out as a straight as an OGN.
It kind of does. It makes it a nightmare for us to cover.
It does
if they do that, because we can't really fit in full trades in a week with other comics. That said, though, if they do trim down the line enough, maybe we can. If we only get 3 comics a week, maybe we can do a trade in 3 comics. But it doesn't seem like it's going that way quite yet. So
not just yet, no.
But hey, it was a solid issue. Art's fantastic. There was several pages. The page of him running on the rooftop at one point, or I like the pages where he's kind of like walking through the street and we're getting the 3 different time periods behind him as he's walking.
That's really cool.
I like that.
I love the colors on this book as well. I think they really make it pop.
Mm-hmm.
They're just really make it feel of its time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matt, what are you giving it?
I think it's 8.5.
Connor?
It's a straight 8 from me.
Yeah, I'll go with straight 8 on this one, I think. But it's the sort of thing that when I read it all again together, it might actually veer up a little bit. But that is The Question, The Deaths of Vic Sage, issue 4. Plunge, issue 6. Joe Hill and Stuart Immonen on the art. The final issue of this Carpenter mashup that never was.
Yep.
So, it plays out kind of as you'd expect. The baby, they're calling
is born.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she gets down there. She opens up the hatch, and all the little worms swim in there, and the Russians show up. And even though you don't have to translate it, I translated it with Google Translate.
Of course you did. Did you type it all in?
No. Google Translate has a camera thing. And you get it more or less. Yeah, so it's just hilarious because you didn't have to. You get the vibe from the art because Immonen's that good. But they're just like, they're basically going, what the shit's going on? What did we hit? It's all that kind of stuff. And then when you get when the sub surfaces and they're talking to the Americans.
And they're trying to speak English.
Yeah, yo, homies, how's it going? And I was just like, okay, good for Hill for keeping the humor as it's getting super dark. Because then, right after they say that, the creature that starts tearing apart reality just picks up the sub and tears it apart.
Oh, yeah. Actually, before we get to that, though, I want to talk about some of the art here. Where all the parasites and the dead guys all kind of leave because we're keeping our word, we're all leaving. They all swim to the submarine that's about to give birth to the thing, and I couldn't help but notice the intentional similarity to sperm swimming as it's going into the hatch, and then of course it's literally going to give birth. So there's a lot of very intentional imagery there, and if it makes you go, wait, if these parasites that are like the yay big, if that's like a single sperm, then how big's this creature going to be? If you think about how big we are compared to human sperm, think about it right now. Everyone think about it right now.
No, don't think about that. So they so they go in there and then the things hatch, and before they leave, they tell the crew that's still lashed to the things that, oh, we apologize because when the baby's gonna be born, it's gonna have an appetite, and that's kind of your first hint. And then this is where it gets really into Lovecraft type things where it starts ripping apart reality, but...
Well, first of all, just to explain what it looks like, it's like this big... It's like a giant tree, essentially. Like a mutated...
tentacle tree.
Yeah, a mutated tentacle tree with, like, bulbous things on it. Clark, the brother of the captain, they can't quite save him. They can't quite untie him before he drowns. So he goes. So Captain Carpenter is going to go on a suicide mission. He's going to use a couple of things. He's going to trick the big thing into wanting the ingot, right? The thing that makes them obsessed.
Well, he puts together. Well, first he tries to blame himself, and the scientist lady, she's like, and I know I should know her name, but she's like, no, you're doing everything you want. You wouldn't want to be anywhere else but here. You're doing what you should. You're salvaging, basically. She tells him, she's salvaging humanity, for the lack of a better term, and that your brothers would want, don't do this and stuff. And he puts together the crew, the Derleth, basically these gifts that they gave him was so they could save the day, right? That deep down, the crew of the Derleth knew how to stop these things.
Yeah, it was like they were kind of still. It's like they were still in the coding, and they were intentionally trying to like make sure the tools for how to destroy this thing.
Right.
Because basically, this thing's going to destroy the world. It's opening a portal to hell or something in the sky.
Or something, which I like, because in the art it starts to look like old school, like stuff from tapestry, like medieval underneath, and it's just it was so weird to see, and it stands out in that way, which is real cool. But yeah, so he puts together, that his brother was able to go deep enough to figure all this out, and that nothing can, because they didn't have eyes as those creatures, that's why the ingot didn't affect him. Well, this creature clearly has eyes, because he's going to use it to attract it back and then blow it to hell.
Yeah, it's basically, it's a suicide mission. She's not happy he's doing it. So the one survivor, who's the one who's missing the eye, grabs her so he can go on this mission.
Yep.
And he's like, hey, like, this is on me. My entire crew died, so I'm going, and there's no way I'm walking away from this. I'm going to go kill this thing. And we get this gorgeous art of him swimming with a flare under the water. So you got this red flare in the blue dark water as this is chasing him. Gorgeous panels, and then of course this giant water explosion, which honestly isn't entirely dissimilar to the explosion from that happened a couple of weeks ago.
True.
There's a big wall of water coming up like that. Made me think of that.
No, true. He also sees his brothers as he's going down.
Yeah, that's a nice moment.
They'll be reunited. It was real nice. And
so
also Captain Carpenter takes the guy that had the ingot to get it back from him. Basically starts to beat the ever living piss out of him, and they basically leave him for dead. Which then he's left by himself on this island. And you're like, oh no. What's going to happen?
With his jar with the one specimen of the parasite. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So the ending is basically he's still on the old derelict ship with this parasite in him. So there's still one left. There's still one of these things out there. But the two survivors go away in the boat and they're looking for civilization. So no.
Yeah. Real fitting ending. I think it stuck the ending better, I think, than Basket did. If we're comparing the Joe Hill books,
I think that's fair. They both feel like movies to me. Both of them feel like they're paced and function like a movie. They do. Yeah, I'd happily watch the adaptation of this. So if anyone wants to get on it, feel free.
For sure.
Feel free.
Sure. Whoever, because he has a deal. I mean, Lock and Key was what, Hulu? That came out on?
No, Netflix.
Was that Netflix? Okay, I remember there's a Hulu one in production. And they were vastly different. So whoever wants to get on this one, if it's HBO Max or because it is DC, that would be nice.
So there you go. That's Plunge issue 6. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm giving this 8.5.
Probably straight 8 for me. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's the books. So I'll take out the part of the show. It's been also we had this many books. This is going to be tougher than it's been recently. So this is part of the show where we pick our favorites of the week, favorite panel / moment, favorite art, favorite cover, and top 5 books. So Matt, why don't you start us off with your favorite panel / moment?
There was quite a couple. I could pull some from Action Comics that did the opposite and made me really angry. But I think I'll pull from Suicide Squad. And let's see there's a lot of good stuff in here. I'm gonna go with when Wink presents the pizza because I think that's a fun moment. Just a little bit of lightheartedness in an otherwise dark section.
Yeah.
It's real nice.
Sure. Connor?
Zatanna's Pew Pew.
Yeah, I figured. As soon as I read that, I knew that was going to be Connor's.
It gave me a big grin. It looked great. I'm for it.
Yeah, I'm going with the Joker shark eating the little guy.
Yeah, poor Gaggy.
That's his name. I keep wanting to call him Giggles.
Yeah.
Gaggy. His name's Gaggy. All right. So, favorite cover. I was looking at a little bit ago. The Flash variant's very nice. Although the thing about the Flash variants right now is that they're all basically the same, just with different poses. So they're all very high quality, but it's not particularly notable. A lot of the three Jokers covers are high quality.
Mm-hmm. All 9 of them.
Yeah, but I will say that I think I'm going to go with the variant for Suicide Squad, which is a gorgeous digital painting of Arian Wink.
It's very nice. That's actually my 4th choice this week, which says a lot about that. There's some really good covers this week.
That's Jeremy Roberts who did the variant cover on that. The regular cover is actually quite good too, but I went with the variant. So, Kyle, what's yours?
Well, there's 3 that really stand out to me after that one. Is the Batman Superman variant by Jay Lee. I think is very nice.
Okay.
The Middleton Wonder Woman. Always good. But the one that really it takes it, I think, ultimately is the Justice League Dark variant by Bermeo. Holy shit, that is good.
Yep. That was mine, but and to be different, I'm also a big fan of the Plunge regular cover with the red design. It's almost a movie poster, That looks pretty good.
I don't know if you look at like the books you're not reading to see what the covers are like, but
I'm looking
worth
I'm going to look at Dark just now.
Both Justice League Dark books or covers are pretty good.
That's pretty nice.
So the regular one's Paquette, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that variant, oh boy.
Yeah, Connor's thirst for Zatanna is clearly not playing a factor in this one at all, is it?
I mean, it's really not.
All right. It is a very nice cover.
I'm a mark for Bermeo. I love his stuff.
I'll stick with my pick, but it is a very nice cover. So there you go. So then we have best art of the week.
So this is a tough one this week because there's a lot.
Yeah, Carl, you can go first.
And why was it JRJR?
Hey, honestly, we spoke about that art more than any other book. I'll just.
There's
reasons, though.
There's only really 3 in contention for me. Suicide Squad, Justice League Dark, and 3 Jokers, which I think Fabok probably takes it. Despite all my problems with the pacing and the writing and the ideas in that book, I have very little to fault about the art outside of a small handful of panels out of a double-sized issue. So yeah.
Yeah, for me it's down to Suicide Squad, 3 Jokers, Plunge, and The Question.
Yeah,
I think is my picks. I mean, I said 3 Jokers reminded me a lot of Doomsday Clock, and that that gives you it. This is tough. There's a lot of good art this week. It was obviously some notably bad art, but a lot of good art. I'm gonna go Suicide Squad. But it's close. It's damn close. Matt.
I gotta go with Fabok. It's just
all right,
cool. As much as I want to do with the other ones, I can't help myself.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, top 5 books of the week, Matt.
All right, so I'm trying to remember because it was so long ago when we started the show. I'm gonna go Suicide Squad number 1, 3 Jokers number 2, Plunge 3, Flash 4, Justice League Dark 4, Flash 5. Yeah.
Okay. Connor?
Justice League Dark 1, Suicide Squad 2, Question 3, Batman Superman 4, and I guess that leaves Wonder Woman at 5. Yeah.
Sure.
I think so.
Sure. I'm trying to remember what I said about book. All right, I think I'll put the Suicide Squad at number 1. I'll put Three Jokers at number 2. I'll put the Question at number 3, Plunge at number 4, and then at number 5 I'll put I'll go with
Throw a dart, damn it.
Wonder Woman.
There you go.
That's number 5. Okay.
Got there in the end.
Good job.
It's tough. It's a tough week because there was a few books there that I was left with that were all about a 7-ish. So I was just trying to think which one was taking the spot. All right. But there you go. That is our picks of the week. So yeah, I'll tell you what's coming next week, as we often do at this point.
Say often. It's always.
I'm sorry that I jazzed up the speech a little bit. Not let you embellish it at all. Connor has to have direct facts at every time, which is why he's the boring one. So, let me take Wonder Comics as well. The what I'd be leaving off. The one book that
you'd be missing Young Justice, I believe, that's under Wonder Comics, right?
Yeah. So next week we got Batman 98, Justice League 52, Strange Adventures issue 5, Shazam 14, which is the end of the John's run.
Oversized ending, I believe.
Yeah. Deceased Dead Planet number 3, Young Justice 18, Batman The Adventures Continues issue 4, Hellblazer Rise and Fall issue 1. Am I reading the Hellblazer book next week? I guess I am.
It's Tom Taylor, so you're damn right you are.
The Dreaming Waking Hours issue 2, and that's basically it. So, yeah, it's not as quiet as I thought it was, actually.
I think we've got about 6 or 7 books between us.
Yeah, I'm reading 7 books next week. It's not that quiet.
But a couple of them are oversized. Hellblazer's double Dead Planet. I think, is that a little bit oversized? Is that normal? That might be normal, but
maybe slightly bigger. But
Shazam's oversized. I think Strange Adventures is slightly over, right?
Just slightly. Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. That's the books next week. Yeah, it says something that I'm looking at that, and Young Justice is probably the one that I'm looking forward to the least, even though I quite like the last issue on its own merits.
It's a pretty good job it's cancelled then.
I don't think it had a choice. Like, you know.
They just went, what was the lowest reviewed book Pete was going to give this week? And we'll cancel that one.
Yeah, I think they're listening to me. I think they've got the sense to use me as a barometer for the world.
All right, then use that to get JRJR off of Action Comics. All right, please do something nice with your life.
I'll make some calls, Matt.
All right, there you go. Thank you.
I'll make some calls. My problem is that my inside man was Didio, and now he's been shafted out of the company.
Well, shoot.
Which we all know is not true. If I had Didio's number, then the amount of abuse he'd get for the treatment of Dick and Wally would be off the charts. So there you go. We'll take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month of August. And this is the last episode of August, so is it?
Yeah.
It is, yeah. So thank you to Alison and Fordyce, Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Born Now, Zammer Jammer, Al Tribesman, Christopher Moy, and Brett Williams. They are all Patreon producers, meaning they are $20 or above patrons. But you can, of course, support us at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV for as little as $1 per month and get some bonuses for your trouble. At the $5 tier, you get early access to all the episodes by one day. And occasionally you get to vote on a book for previously. Not all the time, it's just whenever we're replacing one of those last 2 slots. We'll do that. So go and have a look and see if you're interested in keeping the content coming and, getting some bonuses for your trouble. You can, of course, also support us by hitting the like button on the YouTube. Really important. Helps more people find us. Same idea with rating the podcast on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get a podcast from. Give us 5 stars and a little review. Help spread the word a little bit. And you can literally just spread the word by tweeting us out or sharing us amongst your Facebook friends, your Tumblr.
No one uses Tumblr anymore. Just move on.
What's the word we're going to T that means friends? Have we got one?
Teammates?
Yeah, your Tumblr teammates. Thank you, Matt. Or your Instagram.
I got nothing.
Incels? I don't know.
No.
Yeah, please don't. So yes, go do all that. You guys on Twitter at DC Comics Podcast, of course, for updates and all that jazz. But that is about it. That is us. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. Hopefully you enjoyed this extra length episode with all the news and all the books. And we'll see you for a more normal length one next week. It's been a pleasure. Keep reading DC Comics, guys. We'll see you next time. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Wakanda forever.